Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados right here on Think Critical YouTube, and we've got a 4-box going right now, but we should have some more guests in the not too distant future. Perch says he's running a little bit behind. He might be maybe 30 minutes late. We're waiting on Hart Fisher to join us. Should be a really interesting guest. And as you all know, I just experienced back-to-back typhoons. And we didn't have power for 48 hours. It felt like the roof was going to come off of our house. I was actually bailing water out of my kitchen and my upstairs veranda to make sure my house didn't flood. It was wild.
A twister.
Yeah, twister. What are you talking about? Typhoon is completely different. It's a water storm.
I thought it was like a water twister.
No. Tornadoes last like minutes.
I thought
typhoons last for hours.
I thought
maybe days.
Typhoon was just a Pacific hurricane.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought it was a WNBA team.
It might be. But we need Jim for that one.
No,
it has not been
because everybody actually has to go to the typhoon.
Sure.
It has not been a great week for the Thinking Critical family. I had my 2 typhoons here with all the flooding and stuff going on. We got word that Aaron, he's on vacation in Hawaii, and he had a slip and fall. Sounds like he cracked open his head and has a concussion. So if you could send some thoughts and prayers to him, but also Jim had an accident as well. Apparently he was picking up his dog and blew out his back and is having some medical issues. So definitely keep the entire family in your thoughts and prayers. So that stuff was absolutely wild. But we are here to talk about comic books, and we have Mr. Hart D. Fisher, the man behind American Horrors. How you doing, Hart?
Man, you guys, I crawled out of my coffin really early. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Absolutely.
I've been having lots of fun setting up the microphone for this thing, or else I would have been right on time. I'm having a hard time here. Guys, I don't normally get up till like 2 p.m. I went to bed at
10
about
p.m. here.
4:30 in the morning is when I went to bed, because I normally work at night.
That's what I do, because everybody I work with is in America and I'm in the Philippines. We're like exactly 12 hours ahead on Eastern Standard Time. But this is the time that we found where I can host a show and actually have people show up, and we weren't getting stepped all over by bigger streamers at the time. But we've been doing this,
the West Coast might actually be up.
It's true. Although it is definitely early for those guys. So I appreciate you getting up early for us, Hart, and joining us to talk a little bit about comic books, brother.
Wes, that is how highly I think of your show.
Well, I appreciate it.
That, and not only that, I went and I watched every video you sent me, and I read every article. And right off the top, guys, I totally believe that those Screen Rant articles are AI written. And I think the CBR article, I think that gentleman who wrote that, I think he also is using AI to write these articles, because you could see the surface level. Like it's so surface, when we get into the show, I'll talk to you guys about it, because I'm curious about some of this stuff with Birds of Prey and such. And also, I can't wait to talk about why comics cost so much, because I have a lot to tell you guys.
Okay.
Be very, very good. And you have the American Horrors channel on Roku, correct?
Mm-hmm. Actually, we just, my web player on my web channel, AmericanHorrors.net is the website. So we've been on Roku on October 2nd. It'll be 14 years. So I've had this linear streaming horror television channel, American Horrors, for 14 years. And it's a lot of fun, and it's an old school TV channel. Like, imagine Svengoolie for adults with boobs. You know what I mean? Not that adults are boobs, but like, it's fun. It's good time horror. I've got it on in the background right now. Groovy TV is playing. And so we had our web player down for about a year and a half, because our head of tech had a stroke. He had a divorce. He had another stroke. He had to move. He had to move again. I don't know if you guys know Max DeVille from Atrocity, but he is our head of tech over at American Horrors. And so he finally got back on his feet. He finally got everything fixed. We just rebooted the website. So yeah, American Horrors is free to watch on Roku and online at AmericanHorrors.net.
Very nice. Oh, and these are all things that you've created yourself, or is it stuff that you're licensing out and bringing, kind of onto one platform?
Well, it's a television network. So just like IFC or NBC or ABC or any of those other networks, I'm the same thing. I'm the same thing. So what we have is we have feature films, and we license content. We have original in-house content like Groovy TV's on right now. Gorecast is out of Limerick, Ireland. Riffhead is like Mystery Science Theater 3000. That's a late night show for us. After Groovy TV is going to run the American Horrors Film Festival series, because I am the head of programming for a film festival in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. We were the only film festival open during the lockdown, and we had the only open rock concert during the lockdown on Halloween in 2020. So I've been a guy who's a counterculture counterpuncher. Most people who watch comics and do comics remember me from Boneyard Press, from Danzig's company Verotic, from my writing for Chaos Comics, and for my various stunts that I did, you know, like the Marvel Can Suck My Cock shirts at San Diego Comic-Con, you know, stuff like that, you know, the Kill Image books, the Doing Time with OJ, the infamous Jeffrey Dahmer books. But I've been doing American Horrors since 2008, and I'm the face of the show. So, hi, I'm Harty Fisher from American Horrors, all day, all night, all horror. And it's a lot of fun. It's a good time, and it's free. You know, it's free, and we keep politics off. So there's no politics. I think that that's really killed a lot of the enjoyment of comic books, and all the creators that are fighting with each other online. Guys, how does that make more books? How does that make better books when you're all killing each other's crowdfunding campaigns, when you're all fighting with each other, when you're all deep sixing each other, when you celebrate any single Me Too anything? That, okay, if there's rape allegations, that is nothing to celebrate about, guys. All right, this whole debacle with Neil Gaiman and these other folks that have been misbehaving in the industry, that's nothing to celebrate, ladies and gentlemen. Rape's a very, very serious subject. I have dealt with 3 different rape issues in my life. I had 3 different girlfriends raped. My first love was raped and murdered in the middle of making my first film, The Garbage Man. In the middle of the entire Jeffrey Dahmer controversy over my books, I was dealing with my own murder. You know, that happened in the middle of the entire controversy. My girlfriend was raped and murdered. So when I deal with horror, when I talk about these things, I'm far more serious and far more intense than anybody has ever portrayed in the common comics media. I've dealt with more death, more censorship. My work has literally been banned, literally been burned. My comics have been burned. Capital City Distribution burnt over 1,000 copies of the Jeffrey Dahmer book. That's right, folks, burned them. They paid me for them, then they begged me to take them back. But they didn't give them to the stores. The stores wanted these books, and so they shortchanged their customers because they had an issue with this comic book that I ran by a lawyer before I even published it. So it's been a pretty crazy career. So I think when I talk about why comics cost more, I think I bring a little bit gravitas to the table, and I've been in the business since 1991. One of my best friends in high school, Dan Matson, was the founder of North Star Comics that published Faust. First started publishing Faust. So I've got a long history with this, and I did a deep dive in the research on what's going on with comic pricing and exactly why they're more. And you did a great job on your video, Wes. Your video was way better than the other knucklehead, and you got into it more. But there's a lot of nuts and bolts that were left out of that stuff. And I guess I'm done just talking about my tragic past. And let's have some fun.
We're definitely here to have some fun, and you've certainly been around. I think a lot of people might remember you being, was it Sally Jesse Raphael?
Yeah, I did all the media stuff. I was on like a Closer Look with Faith Daniels. I was on ABC's Day One, which really threw me under the bus. I was on a documentary called Murder by Numbers that CNN put out. I was on CNN Headline News all day long over the Jeffrey Dahmer book when they did a protest march on my house. So when people want to cry about censorship, well, let me know when the police show up at your house. Okay, so for all the people that are crying about being canceled, let me know when the cops show up at your house and ask you to leave town, okay? Because I had that happen to me over the Jeffrey Dahmer book. Let me know when you've got an angry mob outside of your house and you've got a SWAT truck parked next to your house. Go ahead, tell me all about your censorship. Tell me all about your death threats that you get. Tell me about how your house was robbed while you were at a Fangoria horror convention because the press announced you're out of town. So when you want to talk about being shut down because somebody said something mean about you on X, oh no, I'll cry a river for you, buddy. I'll cry a river. But until then, I see a lot of Nurse Nancy crying and their little Cheerios. Oh, they were so mean to me. Oh, my book got canceled because I said the wrong thing at a giant corporation known for firing people for saying the wrong thing on Facebook, let alone going out there and shooting their mouth off, guys. Yeah. It's going to be fun. And I'm really glad that you had me on the show. I enjoy doing these podcasts, especially because it's a chance to like get out there and go against the counter narrative. Like most people don't know, I discovered Gerard Way, and you mentioned Sally Jesse Raphael because I got Gerard Way on there. I published his work when he was 15 years old. I'm the first publisher of Little Gary Way to Me. And back then, I got him onto Sally Jesse. I was on Larry King, all these different radio shows. I used to be on the Morning Zoo crew. Let's wake hard up at 8 a.m. and call him because my phone was right next to my bed. You know what I mean? So like, ka-chunk, what's going on? And today I'm up a lot earlier. You know what I mean? I'm actually up a lot earlier, but then I've been laying off of the rum and coke, so it's easier for me to get up in the morning. But as far as the media too, another good one was the Nat Geo special, The 90s, The Last Great Decade. And then I was on the Verminators. A lot of people don't know that Billie Eilish grew up next door to me. So when people go, gee, why is Billie Eilish so into horror? Well, American Horrors was launched at the house next door to her. I'm her first director. So I directed Billie Eilish in the opening credits of the American Horrors television show. I directed Billie a year later. I'm in a paid job for a music video, Hollow by Herd the Humans, where she plays Little Death. And so these are all big cultural things. So I have an influence in a way that people don't understand, because poor Billie grew up right next door. We had craftsman houses and the windows were non-existent. This was built in 1929 in LA, and we were in a gang-infested neighborhood. So this property was not maintained. So they heard all the Dario Argento movies playing all day and night, and American Horrors with the channel. And I do the scheduling. So I'm in charge of what plays, right? So we have the channel on all the time. So when you're running the network, you have to know it's on. That's part of why I got it on in the background right now, because I need to know it's working right. And I need to know if I'm bored. If I'm bored with the channel, the viewers are bored with the channel. And I believe commercials are just as important as the programming. So there's no starving dogs, no starving cats, no political ads. No political ads, ladies and gentlemen. There are no damn political ads on American Horrors. You can just enjoy yourself. You can check out and just chill. There's no message. There's none of that crap. There's none of that garbage. It's just a lot of good time. So with that in mind, this thing with the media, I've constantly been in the media. I've acted in movies, so I've been in movies. Generally, I play myself. I play myself in a really great radio play called MP Armageddon. That was a hit in multiple countries. It was in the top 10 comedy podcasts in Germany on iTunes for a while, over 80 different voiceover actors. And I play Hart Fisher in it. I play Hart Fisher in the role. I'm in American Scary. I'm in Serial Killer Culture. I'm in a couple of other movies playing like a corrupt cop that beats his suspect to death. I normally play a heavy when I'm in a horror movie, So I'm really out there in the culture and in music and stuff. And I used to direct music videos. And it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy the whole creative life. And that's why I keep coming back to guys, stop fighting with each other. Stop it. Who cares who you voted for? That's not important. What's important is the comic book. Because after your tweet is gone, after your X is gone, after your Facebook post is gone, what's left behind? It's going to be these books. And that's what's important. And right now, I'm on your show because of the books I did 30 years ago, 20 years ago. The Boneyard Press books, they still got people talking. I honestly don't think anybody's going to be talking about Birds of Prey in 30 years. Sorry. No. They're not going to be talking about Green Arrow comics from DC 30 years from now. They're not going to have the writer to discuss having a protest march on their house or having Rick Parker saying, fuck you at a comic convention because he didn't like what I was publishing. That would happen to me at shows. Other creators would come up and just be like, you're a scumbag. Fuck you. And I'm like, well, okay. Could you have waited till I was done with the interview? We're in the middle of an interview right now. That happened in New York City with Rick Parker.
All right, Hart. I want to ask you a question. What's your favorite horror movie of all time? It sounds like you're an enormous horror aficionado. What's the best horror movie ever?
My criteria for that, for best horror film ever, is how many times do you watch it? What do you watch it over and over again? So I can't give you a 1, but I can give you a top 10.
All right,
because I can't decide on one because I love all the genres. The werewolf is my favorite monster. Because I'm a motherfucking werewolf, ladies and gentlemen. I love the werewolf. I love horror films. I love supernatural stuff. Definitely like the satanic stuff is fun. I know a ton of the satanic folks, like Lucian Greaves. Good job on that Baphomet. I know so many of these guys, the LaVey family and stuff. I know from doing all the horror stuff and working with Danzig, you get to know all these guys. You know what I mean?
So my question then is Taylor Swift really Anton LaVey's daughter cloned?
Get out of here. Get out of here. Don't
She
give me a
looks the
break.
same.
But getting back to the horror films, I'm going to have to say, without a doubt, like The Exorcist, The Omen, The Howling, John Carpenter's The Thing. Definitely got to get David Fincher's Seven in there. I really like that film a lot. So those are like right there off the top of my head. You know, bang. I think that's a great place to start right there. Boom.
Absolutely. My personal favorite horror movie is 28 Days Later. I think zombies are terrifying, and I thought that really elevated them.
Well, and they weren't zombies. They were actually human beings that were infected with the rage virus, because I just watched 28 Years Later. You know, I just watched that, and I love 28 Days Later. And it was a revolutionary film because the director was down on his heels. His career was over. A lot of people don't know that 28 Days Later was shot on a mini DV camera. So
very apparent when you watch it.
Yeah, it's a mini DV film, and it goes to show that it's not about how much money you spend. It's not about the paper your book is printed on. It's the quality of the story you're telling, and that's a great story. And then 28 Weeks Later was fantastic. Did you see 28 Years Later?
I haven't got to see that one yet. I have 3 little kids, and I don't get to watch stuff like that very often anymore.
I tried watching it. I couldn't make it more than 20 minutes into the movie.
My statement about that film is it's good, but it's disjointed, and what it really lacks is narrative drive. It really is lacking the pull of the story of like, where are they going? What's going on here? How come this guy didn't come after that guy? This is kind of a disjointed mess. The filmmaking itself was good. It had some really great set pieces and action films. I don't quite understand the 7-foot-tall prime guys with giant cocks. That was right out of The Taint for me. I don't know if you guys know of a toxic event, the trauma film called The Taint. Halloween's here. You know, October's coming up, so I highly recommend a film called The Taint from Trauma.
Very, very nice. Dylan, what's your favorite? What's up?
It's about Viagra. It's about this experimental Viagra that turns people who take it into raging sexual psychopathic monsters, and it's set like an 80s film. The Taint.
Dylan, what's your favorite horror film?
Oh, John Carpenter's The Thing. That's definitely my favorite. I love that movie.
Do you consider Seven a horror film? Because Hart said it was a horror film. I think that's more of a thriller.
No. Yeah, it's definitely.
Get out of here. It's a serial killer. You're like trying to argue that Silence of the Lambs isn't a horror film, and they're keeping a girl in a basement to wear her skin. Get out of here. Silence of the Lambs is a horror film. I had this argument with Joe Monk's co-creator of Cry for Dawn on a tour, and we were in a car. We had this raging argument about whether or not Silence of the Lambs is a horror film. So is Seven a horror film? Well, how could it not be? Serial killers, the gore is over the top. It's nasty. I
just don't think of it that way, because Seven might be a better movie than 28 Days Later.
I consider if that's the metric, then just serial killer, like half of thrillers are now horror movies.
They are. I mean, think about it.
The Bone Collector?
What's your monster? Your werewolf is a serial killer. I'm quoted in Time magazine as serial killers are the modern day werewolf. They're a monster, okay, guys? The Hillside Strangler, that's a monster. Richard Ramirez, that's a monster. John Wayne Gacy getting his victims, tricking local kids to work for him, and then torturing to death with weird gay torture stuff. You know, that's horror, guys. That's not a thriller. You guys are twisted. You guys are really sick. Seven is absolutely a horror film, because most horror films are mysteries. Friday the 13th, mystery. Halloween, mystery. The Thing, mystery. They're normally mysteries. The best horror films are mysteries, unless it's a rampaging monster film. Alien, mystery. What's killing everybody? I don't think
Seven ever really tries to put fear into the audience, though, compared to most horror movies. And I think that's the difference.
No, it's dread, and it's absolute fear. Absolute fear. When he's running away and he's in the rain and he's waiting to get killed by the serial killer. I'm giving away stuff, but not. It's absolutely a horror.
If you're getting Seven spoiled for you on this stream, I got bad news for you.
It's not spoiled for me. I'm the horror expert.
No, I'm not
you
talking.
Don't even have a face, Doctor. You don't even have a face on the screen.
I mean, the most horrific part of Seven for me was the Polaroid of the guy's suit and the shroud over the prostitute.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously, but that's like all assumed, because there's nothing kind of graphic in front of you except for like the facts, and you put your imagination goes to work.
I like where you're going with this. I like the what's in the box, but the one that really sticks with me is in the interview room when they're going back and forth between the two conference rooms, and you got the gentleman who had the knife thing, and he's like, he made me wear it. He made me wear it. He made me do it. That's horror, dude. That's horror. That's not thrilling. This whole film is dread. It is dread. Absolute horrific dread. The horror of what's in the box. What's in the box? What's in the box? That's horror. That is not, it's a thriller. Look, it's sex. It's fun. Where's the sex scene? Thrillers have sex scenes. Where's the sex scene in the thriller? Basic Instinct. That's a thriller. Basic Instinct is your classic thriller. Even
Basic Instinct is a serial killer.
Yeah, but it's got all the giallo, but it's set up as your classic action film with car chases, red herrings. Now that's more of your classic thriller. Okay. We can have the discussion all day.
No, I'm with you. I think I could see how 7 kind of maybe, it's a little bit of both. If you want to say it's more horror than thriller, but it certainly has still elements to it. But Dylan, you said yours is The Thing.
Yes,
right. That one's great.
I love
John
that
Carpenter is just a freaking genius.
Hey, Doctor, what's your favorite?
Still always torn on that. It's somewhere between, I think, Event Horizon.
I
don't know why.
It's a good one.
I like Event Horizon. That's a good one. That's one that, like, again, or The Hitcher. Oh, I should have put that in the list too. The original Rutger Hauer, The Hitcher. That was hugely influential on my comic book Dark Angel. In fact, the look of the character for Dark Angel, my comic that I sued Marvel Comics over and won, by the way. Thank you. And the Hells Angels helped me. Different story, different day. But the whole thing with The Hitcher at the end, C. Thomas Howell goes through a transformation through the film, and by the end, he's kind of like a killer, like Rutger Hauer. And so the look of my character, Dark Angel, I sat there with that movie on pause and did pencil sketches of C. Thomas Howell at the end, at the very end, like when he takes care of the killer and he has changed and become something else. If you look at the first 2 issues of Dark Angel, there you can clearly see that I based the look of the character on him.
All right, Sully, you're the most optimistic member of the panel. You're the most wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and innocent. Do you have a favorite horror film?
I try not to have an absolute favorite because I just love horror movies. I love vampire movies. I love the Hammer vampire movies. I think Salem's Lot, the original CBS Salem's Lot on TV, directed by Tobe Hooper, was amazing. But for recent horror movies, Ari Aster's Hereditary blew my bloody mind, and I loved Midsommar. But one that has infinite rewatchability for me, and it's kind of it's thriller, horror. It's the original 1974, The Wicker Man.
That's a good one.
That's a great movie. I mean, the music is a character. Christopher Lee is wonderful, and you only have a body count of 1, and it's all the way at the end, and it's such a setup, and he's such a patsy, and it's so well done. And
it's so funny that nobody seems to remember that. Hey, guys, The Wicker Man, Midsommar is a direct ripoff of The Wicker Man, and The Wicker Man did it better.
I watched the Critical Drinkers review of Midsommar, and I heard that. Then one of my best friends, who's another movie head just like me, was like, no, you got to give Midsommar a chance. And I did. And I really think it's its own thing in a way. They're parallel. Midsommar has great practical effects. It has got great CGI effects, great costumes, a great cast. I love the Mona Lisa smile at the end. And it had a budget of $9 million and a $49 million box office, and then became a huge, cult classic on home video. That movie is a resounding success. That to me is like, Midsommar blew my mind. Good movie.
I saw that as a little kid on my father's TV set. My parents were divorced when I was like 11, and I'm at Dad's house, and his apartment had like no furniture, had like a big velvet pillow in the middle of the floor, and the TV was like propped up on something, And I remember that movie just freaking me out. That movie freaked me out so good. And Christopher Lee is fantastic. I love Christopher Lee.
It's fantastic. And then
my favorite satanic horror film is got to be The Devil Rides Out with Christopher Lee. It's an old Hammer film. It's a good one. It plays on TCM every year. It's called The Devil Rides Out. It's based on a book by Dennis Wheatley, and it gets its satanic details right, because so much of the modern horror films don't know what witchcraft is. They don't know what the Satanism is. They get it all wrong. They completely get it wrong. Like the paranormal movies, I want to smack the writers of those movies. You know, Paranormal Activity, they're fun. I like those films, but when they get into the satanic aspect, and most of these modern films, and they get into the occult stuff, they really don't do any research. They don't, hey, it's a guy in a hood. Look, it's a pentagram. Yay! You know, and there's so much more to like that, like with the Wicker Man, you know, there's so much more about sacrifice and stuff. I could go on and on about black magic guys.
Very, very good. Well, that was a fun conversation. I wouldn't have expected. Well, I thought we'd talk about horror, but
horror aficionados,
my favorite horror films. But we do need to give a shout out. We've got some new Patreon backers that I need to say thank you to today. Welcome to the family, Benjamin Wilson, aka Metastrike, the protector of Manga Prime, the man that can jump between comic book and manga realities. Also, welcome to the family, John Garrett, aka Rex Overdrive, protector of Pulse Junction. And last but not least, thank you very much to Kevin, Triple K himself, protector of Cade City. If you would like to support Thinking Critical on Patreon or channel memberships, there are links in the video description. You get a hero name, you get a city to protect, and you get awesome bonus podcasts and videos along with that. And I definitely can't do this, guys, without you guys, so I really appreciate that. We've got a few things from the Papals. We got Jagrin 2 jumping in. He says, okay, Jim was being his usual self, trying to cause injury, and Aaron decided to try to be Jim, the vacation edition. That appears to be basically what happened. Although Jim was just picking up like a 1-pound dog. It's not like he owns a St. Bernard. It's not a Chihuahua, but it's not much bigger. So hopefully Jim is doing much better. It sounded like it wasn't great.
A banana peel again?
No, I think he was picking the dog up and blew his back out.
Oh my goodness.
And then Aaron was on a rock in Hawaii, and I guess he must have hit some moss or something, took a slip and bashed the back of his head on a rock.
How big was this dog that he picked up?
The dog, like I said, it's like a pound or two. It was a little bit.
He hurt his back picking up a 1-pound dog?
You gotta know Jim. Jim has been hurting himself.
Legs, not with your back.
All right. Well, Jim, I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. I hope you're feeling better. Back pain's no joke. I hurt my knee the other day, so I've been limping around here pretty good. And I living in Highland Park. We had an issue with wild dogs, and so I had a 90-pound pit bull. So I ran into a couple of stray Dalmatians, big, giant Dalmatian dogs, off the leash, and I just hoisted up my pit bull under one arm, Daisy, and I started yelling at the other dogs, no, get back. So I'm standing there holding the pit bull under my arm, yelling at these two Great Danes to get back, and they're just looking like, you are a crazy, crazy man. And then they kind of
were they Great Danes or Dalmatians, or they more?
They were Great Danes. They were Great Danes. They were big. They were like horses, man. They were huge.
Love Great Danes. Okay. So hopefully Jim and Aaron are going to be okay. But it sounds like Aaron took a really bad spill, and I haven't gotten any word from him. Maybe he got some stitches or something. It sounds like there was lots of blood involved, unfortunately. And then Jagron says, what Chaos comics did you write? I used to read them.
Oh, Chaos was fun to write for. My editor was Philip Nutman, the late, great Philip Nutman. And let me get this. I mean, so you guys can see the shirt killing. There we go. All right. The Chaos comics were fun. I actually was tasked to write the Evil Ernie monthly book, but I started off, they published my poetry, Poems for the Dead. They did the second printing of that. And then I wrote The Dead King. I wrote Homicide, the character Homicide. They let me take him over. So the first thing I wrote was Tears for the Dead. Then I wrote Homicide, the Burning King. And that was a fun 4-issue miniseries. I wrote Evil Ernie versus the Superheroes 2, because I did the Kill Image books. I did Kill Image, then I did Kill Marvel. And so Brian thought I'd be perfect for doing Evil Ernie versus the Superheroes 2. And that was a blast to write. And then I had a lot of fun writing the Evil Ernie book. But unfortunately, the book I wrote for Brian, my job was Evil Ernie was supposed to explore the notion of what is evil. Am I evil? And so I really threw myself into it. I really enjoyed it. I believe the artist was David Brewer. The first issue was all drawn and done. We had 4 issues in the can. written. The fourth one was actually in that phase of like editing and stuff and the outline and writing the first draft. But that's right when the industry imploded. That's when the entire distribution system imploded. That's why when we get into why comics cost more, I can bring a lot of experience and nuts and bolts answers to this that nobody has covered on any other video. And I did more research too on circulation and advertising costs.
Very, very cool. Mike Ortego says, should DC and Marvel start putting out more miniseries for their characters instead of ongoing, like the way they do for a lot of indie comic books?
How is that different from what they're doing right now?
Yeah.
They're announcing books as miniseries. They did this like 5 years ago.
That's what Marvel's doing. DC doesn't do that.
No. But like 5 years ago, everything was a miniseries, and they announced it as miniseries. That did not work. And so they started going to calling them ongoing series and then they got canceled. It still works exactly the same way. It's no different from what they already tried this. It didn't work. They tried it 5 years ago.
This is something they've been doing for a long time. You know, they didn't really do miniseries in the 70s or the 60s or the 50s. They would always do an ongoing book. They didn't start doing miniseries until like the late 80s, early 90s. You know, they started doing miniseries, and I aped that in my publishing at Boneyard Press. The way it normally works is your first issue is your bestseller, right? And then the second issue, you normally get 50%. You get half the sales. And then it kind of continues to drop unless you can turn it up. And for a book like, let's say, Green Arrow to be canceled, it's nothing new for Green Arrow to be canceled. He has failed as a series over and over. You go back to the Brave and the Bold. You go back to the different team-ups, Marvel Comics in the 70s. It's a normal thing for a book to have a 7-issue or a 15-issue or maybe even a 30-issue run and be canceled, like Rom or Dazzler. You know, Dazzler was supposed to be this book to tie in with Xanadu. You know, it didn't work. They didn't tie it in. So it's normal for them to try these out, to throw these against the wall. Somebody's getting paid. Somebody's getting a new title. It's a normal thing. And so like when Birds of Prey gets canceled or Green Arrow gets canceled, it's nothing new. The thing that I think is tragic is when you've got a book that's like 400 issues deep or 600 issues deep, and DC decides to cancel it for a new #1 sales bump. You're cheapening the entire run of the book. I think it's pretty special when you get a series. My hat's off to Eric Larson for getting Savage Dragon done for so long, or Dave Sin at Cerebus. It takes a lot to do these books and keep them coming out. So my respect is out to the books that keep coming out monthly. Monthly is a special thing. You know, it's better to be able to build up expectation, and you're waiting for it and you can think about it. You could reread your book a couple times. Having a monthly thing is very important to the industry. I think it's very important for readership. I've advised that on TV series, like the guys that did NP Armageddon. They were going to do a whole dump of all the episodes of the radio play at one time. And I'm like, guys, if you do it all at one time, it's like taking a good shit and it's over. It's over. It's done. You flush the toilet, you walk away. Man, did you smell that one? Boy, that was a bad one. And then it's gone. But if you are doing episodic, you've got a reason to talk about it. You've got a reason to put out a press release. You've got anticipation. You can build anticipation. You can put out little short stories in between. You can do different things. So the monthly is very important. The episodic is very important to sales, to building readership, to building loyalty, and to building the habit of like being there for New Comic Day. If you're only trade paperbacks, it's not going to work.
But no, they've tried. I mean, because even if you go back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when they realized that miniseries weren't working, before that, they went to their .1 and they did like, you know, the main titles would get like issues 1.1 through 1.6. And all it was a mini series that wouldn't sell as a mini series. So they tried to tack it on to the
There's a bunch of
main series, but it wouldn't fit in continuity of the main series either. So they did it as the .1. So they've tried every way to make this work. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Frey says, I want to hear your best horror comics. Mine's Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X, or with Wolverine.
That's interesting. Best horror comics. That's tricky. I mean, I grew up on the classics like Creepy and Eerie and Vampirella. And then I also grew up on Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. I'd say Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run.
If that's a horror comic, that's my favorite.
I'd say out of all the horror, like if you're going for a serial, like a horror serial, I'm going to give it to Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run. And Rick Veitch did a fantastic job on the follow-up. But if you're going to straight horror comics, that's tricky because normally it's the anthologies that were, although Marv Wolfman's run on Dracula with Gene Colan in the late 70s, early 80s is pretty damn good. And that's where Blade came from.
If we're going with horror serial, then it's definitely Count Chocula, Frankenberry's number 2.
I play some of those commercials on American Horrors. I play a lot of old crazy commercials on the channel.
So it's got to be Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. I think it's maybe the best comic book I've ever read in my life. Like it's amazing stuff. If you go out beside something a little bit less known, I think These Savage Shores from Ray and V, which I think is an 8-issue miniseries, is absolutely amazing. You take British vampires and throw them in India fighting like Indian monsters. Just really cool stuff there. Dylan, what's your favorite horror comic?
Gideon Falls from Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. I love that. That was great.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, it ended like 2019 or something like that. It went on for like 30-something issues. It was great. Got beginning, middle, and end really good. Andrea Sorrentino's art is so trippy, and he's got some of the most like creative panel layouts you'll ever see. It's really good.
Very cool. What do you go with, Sully?
I got this issue of Creepy that's been kicking around with me since I was a kid. I got this at a flea market when I was a young man, when I was a very young kid, and it's been creeping me out ever since. This was the Jaws issue, and this introduced me to Richard Corbin. Oh my gosh, Richard Corbin! Oh, what a master! And this is like probably my 3rd copy of it in my lifetime, and hopefully my final. But this Creepy and Eerie was good too. With the Warren magazines, they were just, because they weren't comic books, they weren't on the spinner rack, and they were just like a little bit more like, oh, I shouldn't own this. I'll get in trouble. Yeah, this was a guilty pleasure.
Is there like nudity in here?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's boobs.
And then you've got EC's The Vault of Fear. Got to have that. The Haunt of Fear. For horror, the classic EC books, they're hard to find. They're worth it. We've been covering a lot. We're getting ready to do a lot of this stuff on my own comic book show, Comics Labyrinth. And we're going to be covering these EC books. And also the classics like House of Mystery and House of Secrets from DC Comics was a lot of fun. Twisted Tales with mostly a lot of stories from Bruce Jones and some good Bernie Wrightson stuff in there. There was so many good horror anthologies. Gore Shriek was a lot of fun from Fanico. That was a good one. There was a lot of good horror stuff actually in Heavy Metal Magazine and Epic Illustrated. They were both big horror. They're not horror. Most people think of heavy metal as fantasy, but they did do horror stuff, and they had a lot of good stuff in Heavy Metal Magazine. And the revival of Heavy Metal Magazine's been great.
Welcome back to the stream, Perch.
Hey there. How's everybody doing?
We're doing great.
I joined right when somebody said boobs, so that sounded good.
They did. So Hart Fisher, this is Comics by Perch. Our good friend is going to join us today. Perch, do you have a favorite horror comic book of all times?
I like a lot of the EC books. I mean, you were going through a kind of a killer's row of comics there. I mean, everything you mentioned is great memories for me and really good books. I mean,
and we got to mention Faust. I mentioned Faust earlier. We got to put Faust in the mix, and I'm going to throw in Cry for Dawn. A lot of people have slept on that one. Joseph Michael Linsner and Joseph Monks back in the late 80s. It was the seminal independent horror comic book was Cry for Dawn, and that's where Linsner really burst out and created his character Dawn. That's where it came from. And their books are very controversial. They sold a ton of books too. They did really well with Cry for Dawn.
Faust did really well. I loved Faust. I love 30 Days a Night as well. It ran a little bit amok, but that original one was pretty damn solid.
I like the movie better, actually.
Yeah, I love the visuals. I think one of the things that comics does really well is because you can get such unique styles brought in that I think it just lends itself really nicely to horror. With superheroes, you're a little bit more
Templeton?
That's
The
Templeton.
artist?
Yeah.
Temple Smith.
Temple Smith.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Templeton.
Okay. Yeah.
What's wrong with me? Anyway, yeah, no, Temple Smith. It's not
When
a horror
Hartnett
book.
punches that vampire through the back of his neck.
Yeah,
that was one of the greatest movie moments of all time, though.
It's great stuff. No, but look at and just you get styles like Dave McKean and the stuff he would bring to the table. That's obviously a more mainstream, I think, horror artist, but you can do so much with horror visuals.
Stephen Bissett's Taboo.
Yes, Taboo, absolutely Taboo.
Definitely, that was a big influence on me. And my erotic horror anthology was called Flowers in the Razor Wire. We did a pilot with that for Japanese TV, and we've got a feature of it coming to VHS. Yes, VHS for October. Flowers in the Razor Wire was my cross of like Cry for Dawn and Taboo because I was highly influenced by both.
Yeah,
is VHS making a comeback? Because I could be about that.
Well, VHS, we're going to do a limited collector's run. So we're doing a signed and numbered edition with it with magnetic rentals. And we did a release of the Flowers in the Razor Wire pilot for Japan. I have it on DVD, so I've got it for sale. We did a DVD release to the direct market in comic books, and it has a mini comic in it. So inside the DVD is a mini Flowers in the Razor Wire comic book that's pretty heavy duty with a really nasty story called Welcome to Sarajevo, motherfucker. It's nasty.
Very nice. I mean, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier since I joined you midstream, but the Twisted Tales anthologies back in the 80s.
Yep.
I think who did that was Eclipse, wasn't it? Or
I think it was either Pacific Comics. It might have been Pacific. There was First Comics. I don't think First really did a horror anthology because First did one of my favorite books was Grim Jack from Tim Truman and John Ostrander. I really loved Grim Jack. That was one of my favorite books as a kid.
Yeah. I mean, you had such great artists coming on there. I mean, he had, I think, Bertie Wrightson. Didn't get his start. He had other work, but some of those covers that he did for that anthology book was awesome. Man,
one of the best days for me ever was I got to hang out with Bernie in LA, in his kitchen, and B, I was over at Joe Monk's house. Joe and his wife were representing Bernie as their art dealer, they were dealing his art. So at their place in Florida, at this point in time, Joe was blind, and they flew me out for his birthday, and they didn't tell him, right? So they did not tell Joe I was there. So I was sneaking around the house, like the ghost in the house, so he couldn't know I was there. And I was moving stacks of Bernie Wrightson artwork, original pencils and inks, and I'm talking like no joke, guys, like a stack that high. And the scariest thing is Pam, his wife, had the stacks. They were too close to the damn kitchen sink. They were right by where they did their dishes. And I'm like, what are you doing? You've got all this artwork here. I got to move this. I was losing my mind. And then the reveal at his birthday party was the party's going the whole time. And I spent most of the evening bringing him his drinks.
Yeah.
Because he's drinking pina coladas. And
the scariest thing about that stack of artwork is how much of it disappeared in the. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm not sure. I believe they had to send that back to Pam, or Pam had to send that back to Bernie because Bernie had a new relationship, and the new relationship was taking over, representing his artwork, and that was like 20 years ago.
I don't have any Bernie Wrightson. I wish I did. The Twisted Tales anthology. Todd McFarlane bought that, or the rights to that, and there was always this promise that he was going to do something with it. And there had been shows and comics and all these promises that something was really going to come of it. And it's been like 20 years now, but I desperately wish that a good.
So you guys were both correct. It was published by Pacific Comics and then later Eclipse.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, those are great. So many good horror comics. And I talked to Frank, actually, who's been on your show a lot last night to help promote his book, because he's got a day and a half basically based on this Kickstarter, and it's Fairy Tales of Terror. And it looks like a pretty fun concept of some good horror too.
I'm going to throw out there to people on my channel, American Horrors, we're a linear streaming television channel, and we have a lot of crowdfunding advertisers. So I have special indie rates. So if you're doing a horror book and if you're getting killed on social media, if you're being shadow banned, if you can't show the gore that's in your book, you can advertise on American Horrors. You can get stuff on American Horrors for as low as if you want to do a product placement spot, that's $150. You know what I mean? And every time you're on the channel, you're going to reach between 100 to 250 people every single time it plays, because there's no bots, there's no scroll throughs, there's no swipe rights. You get what I'm saying? And on my commercial breaks at American Horrors, I play like old Joe Friday commercials where Joe Friday is telling you how safe cigarettes are. The facts are in, folks. Chesterfields are safe. Smoke them while you got them. You know, or the Flintstones, or old Marlboro commercials, or crazy horror commercials. And so in the middle, we get a lot of attention. So the crowdfunding campaigns that have advertised on the network have done very, very well. You know what I mean? We just wrapped up with Dolan's book Unholy Nightmare too.
You know,
and he advertised with us, and I actually helped him because his guy wasn't there to add like the Kickstarter logo to his commercial and add his QR code in the right spot. So I kind of put all that stuff in there for him. You know what I mean?
You know, I know, or at least from the thumbnail here, we were talking about comic pricing at some point, or maybe you already did, but I'll tell you to that point. So people should go in on what you're offering there. What you know, you can do lots of types of advertising, but it's not just so you have that audience. You have an audience that's coming for horror. So if you have a horror book, you are talking directly to 100, you know, of your target audience, and that's more powerful than any kind of blanket advertisement, and that helps with cost.
And you need to reach outside your normal audience. If you were going to build an audience, when I was doing Boneyard Press, I didn't just do comic conventions. I did rock shows. One of the things I did that was instrumental to growing circulation, I was always looking for ways to get outside the box, right? So when I was running Verotic for Danzig, one of the things I came up with was, hey, you need to have a Verotic merchandise booth that goes on tour with you. So his management fought us. They fought us hardcore about it. They didn't want to do it. But we set it up, and by the end of the tour, the Danzig Verotic booth was making as much money as the t-shirt booth. Now, if you're in the rock business, you know that's where a lot of the money comes from for these guys, is the merchandise. So when I was working for Rob Zombie tasked me to create a traveling comic book store that would go on tour for him. This is during the Hellbilly Deluxe tour. So I went to all the major publishers to try to get them involved. The idea was they were going to go trade paperback. You know what I mean? They wanted to trade paperback. You had to have a certain money buy into the store, but then you got your monies out of it because they had to man the store. They had to move the store from concert to concert. The venue had to get their cut. You know what I mean? But it would have been brilliant because you're reaching that perfect market between 18 and 34-year-old males to expand your market. And what I saw is in the industry, as I went to everybody, they all shut it down. Now, at this point in time, Marvel or DC would be spending probably about $10,000 or $15,000 on their booth alone at a comic convention space. So your DC or your Marvel, and you're going to blow 15 grand and not make a penny. You're not selling a single book. So you're going to blow 15 grand, but you can't come up with a couple of $1,000 to get all your trade paperbacks into this store that's going to go to the rock show. And rock kids, metal kids, when they go to a show, they will spend their rent. They will spend every penny they got. I used to do rock shows all the time. I used to do the death metal shows at the was Eagles Auditorium, but now it's the Rave Auditorium in Milwaukee. And so those shows did really well, but nobody in the industry bought in. And this is the time, if we're going to get into comic book pricing, the thing that's left out of all this stuff, one of the things left out of comic book pricing, why are they expensive today? Because Marvel destroyed the direct distribution market. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Marvel, by design, destroyed the direct market. Now, they tried this plan earlier when Malibu Comics was still around. Marvel was furious in the early 90s when Image formed.
We got to get through the rest of the super chats, and then we'll get right into the pricing stuff, I promise. Jagger gifted.
I'll get back into this then, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. We're going right into it after this. Jagger gifted 5 Thinking Critical memberships. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I think people are going to enjoy that. I hope they enjoy what we've got going on in channel memberships. And he also says, Perch, your judgment, should I read Ultimate Endgame? I have not liked Dennis Camp's writing, but I want to read the culmination of the Ultimate line. Please help.
If you don't like the writing, I wouldn't read the book. I mean, it's not like the and
it didn't get better in Ultimate Hawkeye.
Yeah, it's not going to culminate. So what's going to happen is, you know, this will be the end of a storyline, but it will continue. There will be more multiverse stories. It's not over. So I mean, I don't. If you're reading it to just kind of close that chapter, it's not going to close, and then you're stuck with somebody you don't like the writing for. So I mean, why do that to yourself? Why you wouldn't go to Arby's for food? You wouldn't go to this.
The Arby's Big Montana would hit the spot right now.
Yeah.
Come on, man!
Arby's.
I love my Arby's roast beef and my potato cakes.
Oh, don't do that. Now we're back into the horror topic.
Oh man, Arby's is the cow's revenge. You can keep chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing.
Delicious.
Sully knows what I'm talking about.
Exploding Pretty says the best horror film is flesh-eating cheerleaders from outer space. Definitely one of those campy ones. I always like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
I like Frankenhooker.
Frankenhooker's awesome. I interviewed Frank Henenlotter in New York.
Chopping Mall.
Oh, I was just looking at that the other day.
It's hilarious.
Then we've got HH, the boys from Sigma Comics. Shout out to Thinking Critical from Ban X Salt LC. The big two doomed pricing upon leaving newsstands. Better profits for them, but ruined distribution and prices for everyone. We're $2.99, $2.50 at cons. Try out Calico today.
Absolutely. Those guys
Absolutely.
over
And
at
if you
Sigma
prefer the
Comics.
manga size format, you can get manga too.
Yep.
He's hitting all the right places there. And congratulations to HH, and hope you're having fun in Salt Lake City, dude. Should be a really good time. And definitely, if you're at that con, find the Sigma Comics booth. Go meet HH. He's got a great handshake. He's got some awesome stories, and he will definitely sell you a comic book. Very cool. Let's get into this pricing thing. We've been talking around it, but comic book pricing is a bit out of control. Now, you had started talking about how Marvel had basically destroyed the distribution system that was out there when they acquired Heroes World and all that kind of stuff. We ended up with a monopoly with Diamond Comics for a very long time. Diamond's almost out of business at this point, and now we got several different options for distribution, but there was a very long period where they were the only ones in town. How did that affect pricing?
All right, guys, let's get into this. I'm going to try to hit you with what has not been said before. Number one, everybody goes, oh, it's not about the paper. Hey, idiot, it is about the paper. That's one. Okay, we're going to deal with paper. Paper, yes. Newsprint paper is cheap. It's cheap. It's light. It's light. These modern books with the super heavyweight paper and the 4-color ink. I was a black and white publisher, and I published color books. Your shipping quadruples when you publish color. And then if you put it on nice paper, heavy, heavy, heavier, more weight, more shipping. Okay, gas has gone up. Shipping prices have gone up. Paper prices has gone up. Forget the tariffs. Throw that out the frickin' window. That's here today, gone tomorrow. That's just a couple of months issue. Paper, weight, shipping, expensive as hell, okay? I shipped out a box of books for the Boneyard Mystery Box. It was $16.50. $16.50 to ship 11 comic books, guys. That's expensive, all right? That's very expensive. So back in the 1979, these guys are doing 100,000, 200,000 per book. That's monthly titles, all right? 100,000, 200,000 books. That's per issue, per month. They're getting advertising, all right? You're getting paid $10,000 to $6,000 for the back cover alone. You're getting thousands of dollars for the inside back cover. You're getting thousands of dollars for the interior color pages. That's revenues, guys, in 1979 money. And that can pay for your entire editorial staff just with the advertising alone, let alone the newsstand distribution. Now, people talk about newsstand distribution and how it's returnable. Well, the way it worked is you ripped the cover off and sent the covers back in for your returns. So now there's this other circulation market. I used to buy these books for 10 cents a book. You know what I mean? With no covers. I didn't care. I was an omnivore. I read everything I could get my hands on. Everything.
That was the mob.
So, okay, guys, that's now you got Marvel, you got DC. You're talking millions of books a month are moving. This is one of the biggest art forms in America. I get so furious. I was doing some research on like Grok and these other things, and they keep referring to comics as niche. They're not niche. Comic books are a very unique and important art form, and America invented the comic book, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, the Japanese refined it and did it a little bit better than us with manga sometimes. But okay, we're back into that. So think of all that ad revenue. Think about that. You got 10 titles a month. You're getting thousands of dollars. You're talking about over $100,000 in ad revenue in 1979 money. Then in 1989, your circulation is even higher. And you got Hasbro, Mattel, movies, everybody advertising. There's no internet. Okay, there's no internet. So you don't have the same entertainment options. Now, let's move into the 90s. Ron Perlman, the corporate raider, bought Marvel Comics. You guys won't know who Ron Perlman is. He was one of these guys that would buy a company and pimp it out, kind of like they did in Goodfellas, you know, where the mob buys out the restaurant.
Hellboy?
Huh?
Wrong,
Perlman?
Ron Perlman.
Nice.
You're thinking the
Oh.
actor.
You definitely
the
are.
actor. Yeah,
I'm the comic relief.
yeah,
Don't worry.
it's not the
very,
actor.
very nice,
That's
yeah.
Hellboy. That's a whole other different ripoff I'll get into with those movies. I love Mike Mignola. Love Mike Mignola's work. His comics fantastic. Big fan.
By the way,
But-
you would be a little bit surprised. I bet much of this audience does know who Perlman is, because I think the destruction of Marvel's business at the corporate level in the 90s is covered ground. But
It's
anyway, keep
astounding.
going. You're
It's
cooking.
astounding.
Keep going. Yeah.
So how did the comic book industry first get chipped away at? It was Ron Perlman. So they had the direct market, and the direct market was great because you could sell your books and you didn't have them returnable. They weren't returnable. So if you had a book and you had 200,000 print run, and then you get 100,000 of them back from the newsstand distribution, that's a very dangerous game. That is definitely Russian roulette. And so the direct market was a nice backstop. Okay, it was a backstop. But as Marvel and DC made their major decisions, they kept death spiraling in. They kept spiraling in, forgetting that you always have to expand your reach. You always have to expand your readership. You have to keep it out there. You got to advertise. You got to be available. So they started to disappear from drugstores. But Ron Perlman comes in, and Ron, the corporate raider, who was known for busting out companies, just raiding them and busting them out and dumping them. So Ron's got the brilliant idea, and Marvel was furious because Image left. Todd was their biggest selling author. Rob Liefeld was their best selling author. They took a bunch of guys with them and formed Image, and Marvel was pissed. They were furious. So they decided, we're going to drive these guys out of business. How do we do it? Well, make mine Marvel. They knew that retailers were more likely to buy a Marvel book and stock a Marvel title than an Image title. So at one point, I believe the number was, I think at one point, Marvel published 90 books in a month. And the idea was to drive the indies off the shelf by sheer weight of numbers. And they produced a bunch of terrible comic books, awful books. I've got friends, retailer friends, that still have these books in boxes and back shelves and in the back of the store somewhere. And so the retailer who got burnt on the non-returnable 60 to 70 Marvel titles that month that didn't sell, that were garbage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
by
that
the way,
happens, and that destroys stores. That hurts stores. Stores are stuck burning a lot of money, and it hurt independents. And now Ron goes through that, and then they start bringing in the holograms, multiple covers, this Giga, that Giga, this chase card, that chase thing, this gimmick, that gimmick. And now it becomes about buying 5-6 copies of one book instead of reading books, because you got to read the books. It's not about the book on the wall and the slab. Don't get me started about slabbing those books, guys. I want to reach through, smack somebody. You got to read the books. It's about reading the comics. It's the joy and the pleasure of the books and creating the books, but getting back into Ron. So with that corporate raider mentality, that didn't work. Publishing all the books didn't work. The independents got bigger. Image got bigger. Dark Horse came in and was making a big bite, you know, and Malibu and the other competitors. And now Malibu got bought out by Marvel specifically for their coloring system, their computer coloring's coming in. Paper's starting to go up. Shipping costs are up. Printing costs are up. Now it costs more for the computer guys to do the coloring than the old guys to do the coloring. Now we get into Heroes World. Okay. So Marvel gets the brilliant idea from Ron. They're going to get rid of all comic book stores. They're going to be doing Marvel Marts. Okay, we're going to take all Marvel books out of every store everywhere, and you're going to have to go to Marvel Mart. Okay, and the stores freaked out. They freaked out. They were pissed because you're spitting in their face. Who's on the front line now? When you're publishing, guys, remember this, publishers at home. The store is your sales force. That store owner is your sales force on the street. That's your man on the street. That guy, you need that guy. You want that guy on your side. So they screwed over their sales force. They screwed over their people. They were going to do Marvel Marts. Now that didn't take off. So then they decided, well, we're going to pull all our books from distribution. And there used to be 10 distributors, guys, 10, like Comics Hawaii, Friendly Franks, capital city distribution. Heroes World was number 3. That's number 3. They were based on the East Coast. So Marvel gets the brilliant idea. They buy this East Coast distributor that doesn't have warehouses on the West Coast. It doesn't have warehouses all over the country. So Heroes World is not ready to take on Marvel. And what they did is they started an exclusivity war, right? So all the other publishers were going to decide, am I exclusive with Diamond? Am I exclusive with Capital? Who am I going to go with? Well, when you are exclusive with somebody, you are excluding a reader, all right? So every single time you kill this distributor, Friendly Franks goes away. Those readers didn't just move over to Capital or Diamond. They're gone. Those stores are gone. So you lose these other distributors like Domino's. And I'm angry at all the other leaders of the industry that did this, that said, oh, I'm going to sign exclusive. Brian at Chaos, I'm going to sign exclusive with this guy. Billy at She, I'm going to sign exclusive with this guy. I'm going to be exclusive. And they kind of destroyed the industry themselves. They all shat upon their own industry and wrecked it. So by the year 2000, by the year 2001.
Oh, hold up. Let's have some conversations. You got a lot of information out there. I know you were trying to jump in there, Perch.
Okay, I'll shut up for a minute. Now, did you guys understand what I'm talking about here on how this could affect pricing? Because I got more.
Well, there is a lot more because it's.
But go, guys, go.
It's extremely complicated. We should, grab everybody here because I think in pricing you wind up looking at lots of different pieces.
And also, guys, when was the last time you saw a major movie advertised on a book? When did you see a Mattel toy in a book? When did you see a Hasbro, a video game, anything advertised? Not in-house ads. In-house ads don't count. So all that thousands, that $100,000, that $150,000 a month, out the window. So now you're only going to make your money off of your cover price. And we didn't even talk about in distribution.
Well, yeah, we're
you're only
getting
getting 40%. You only get 40% of the cover price.
Yeah, for sure. It's a complicated topic, as you can tell, and there is a lot of history here.
To me, it's not complicated. It's simple.
Well, no, but there's a lot of factors, And one of the things that you mentioned there, as you're going through some of the history, is that when Ron came in, Marvel also filed and became a public company in 91. Mm-hmm. And when you're a public company, it changes the dynamics of what you do. You have to hit quarterly numbers. When you're hitting quarterly numbers, it means that you have to show improvements, which is why they steered more into the direct market, why they did a lot of these policies, because they could get short-term gains. And so, but it's a trap. You're not thinking long-term anymore. I'd let you, I'll jump. Some other people go ahead and feel free to jump in here. But you could talk paper, you could talk distribution, you could talk advertising.
Advertising is huge, guys, and so is shipping costs.
Here, but on the issue of advertising has a lot more to do with the fact, because the advertising rates, once they shrunk their distribution, the advertising is worthless. Nobody's paying for it anymore.
Oh, exactly. That's
why it's the same as advertising on a television show that doesn't get any ratings.
It's why my TV channel's free. We started as a pay service and like HBO, and I didn't like that. I made the TV channel free, so I got as many eyeballs as possible, which would be like for publishing circulation, and that's how you base your advertising. And so as they disappeared from newsstand distribution, as they disappeared from drugstores, as they disappeared from Walmart, as they disappeared from 7-Eleven, A, you're losing those sales. B, you are losing the circulation. And C, though that advertising revenue, that's every month, guys. That's a significant amount of money, and it pays for everybody.
Well, yeah, and it gets passed on to the customer in the form of the cover price.
Yeah.
But also, it's like I'm a Bronze Age baby, and so I've noticed this too. Like going back through my back issues, only the big two had those good advertisements that we love to see. None of the smaller presses had conventional.
And Image used to always be more expensive than Marvel and DC.
Yeah,
but they started with the paper right away. Was Image ever on the newsstand?
Yes,
they were. I didn't know.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But the thing was, Image actually sold it and marketed their product as no ads. They didn't.
That's right.
They didn't seek advertising.
Well,
so
sort of.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Go ahead, Perch.
They definitely wanted advertising, but they were smart. They knew at the very beginning, you have no track record or history. You're building up your base. Now, they had the great artists and everything else, but they've got to enter this market and show that they can compete. So they intentionally advertised no ads, knowing that a year later with scale and the ability to sell those ads, they could do it. But that's smart. That's just marketing and managing your business well.
But as a result, you ended up with audience that wanted that now, because you marketed it as no ads, now that becomes an expectation. And it's considered, you've managed to alter customer perception to the point through your attempt at, kind of hiding your flaw, of trying to make that a strength. Now it becomes a strength, and folks don't want them. I mean, it's you have ads in Image Comics now. They're just all at the back. And as a result, the audience was into the no ad model.
I don't think the audience was going to say, hey, I'm not buying Spawn. There's an ad in here. I don't know where you're going with this. I mean, I get where you're trying to hide a weakness and claim it as a strength. I did that with Boneyard Press. Too tough for color. Too tough for color. I couldn't afford color when I first started publishing.
Yeah.
So I made it a virtue. But then now I like it.
My point is, once you start altering customer perception, they start making it a complaint of the other publishers. Oh, you're still having ads.
It's what we're going on right now with streaming.
I don't know what you're talking about.
When streaming started out, there was no commercials.
I don't get it.
And now all of a sudden they want to add commercials to it and still charge you an exorbitant price. And people are freaking out because, like, fuck that. I paid for this to not have commercials. Now there's an expectation that you don't have commercials. But I think it's different in comics because you can skip them so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
now there is
to look at it. I don't think anybody's gonna skip a comic book because there's an ad in it. I don't buy that at all.
No, but I think the point Doc's trying to make, and I think it's
about expectation. I get that.
Yeah, and also look, it's all about timing of the supply chain and when you're getting things in, and how these this material can come in. I think it is turning a weakness into a strength. They wanted that ad revenue. They knew they couldn't get it, so they marketed it, and that was smart. But the other thing, and on paper, and I don't want to, this could launch into a whole debate in and of itself, the challenge with where the market is today. So not in the 90s, not 30 or 40 years ago, but 25. Today. The problem is the margins on these comics are thin. So if you're a retailer and you're selling a comic, you've got a very limited supply. You're going to get 30 to 35% generally once all, and shipping is in there, but that's generally where you're going to land. And part of that margin, if you have heavier paper, you in theory could demand a higher price. And so the comic retailer is more incented to get the $1.25 off that comic. Now, this is also a trap for the retailer, by the way, but if you had the wider numbers and if you had comics more places, then cheaper paper like newsprint would, in addition to the shipping costs, which you're 100% right on, starts to make a bigger impact, because then that retailer, the person selling it, is comfortable getting less money. They're comfortable getting a 60 cent of a margin on this book. But
so today, there's a really good example of what you're talking about. Recently, within the last 2 years, Mark Miller had that book Nightclub. It was $1.99 or $2.99.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I know where you're going.
And nobody wanted to order it. The retailers didn't because the margins were so small.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's the problem with this business, because if you go into a comic shop today, you see lots of Pokemon cards and other things. Well, okay, there, the margin is generally 25 to 30%, so lower margin. But those things fly off the shelves. You can't keep them in the store, and so they're low. They're low energy for the retailer. They can put the box out, sell the things. It's simple. It's simpler than the comic business. So you're willing to take a lower margin.
Wouldn't you say that too is a trap, because you need a loss leader? You need to have a point of purchase. You need something cheap for your lower tier customer. If you just keep catering to the rich, not everybody's rich, and especially in this market right now, with everything that's happening with the cost of living up, and people are worried about their job, and things are happening in the political sphere. You need something that's more affordable for people that can come in, because I did a whole tour through Mexico. All right, back in 2003, I was down at the Utopia convention. I did a whole tour through Mexico and Mexico City, and what I found was a lot of the comics we were outside of their purchase price. These guys in Mexico, they were in a different economy. They wanted the books. We had books. We did books specifically for them. We did a book called Roadkills. We brought another book called Sex Crimes, but they were too expensive. We priced ourselves out of the market without knowing it. And so we had books that we shipped down there. The cost of shipping them there, by the time we were coming home, the books we didn't sell, it was kind of worthless to us, because the cost of shipping them back, they're worthless now. You know what I mean? So we ended up like giving a bunch of them away for free, just to get your market going, just to get your circulation. And you got kids in the store. They don't have 1095. Their parents don't have 1095. They just bought another car seat for the car.
Yeah, that's a point that we've made. a number of times. You're outside of an impulse purchase price. And yes, the retailers, the publishers have all made a strategic decision to forego the bottom end of the socioeconomic class of their audience.
It's a poor decision.
I'm not saying it's a good one. I'm saying
what's the cover price on Bone?
Oh, fuck if I know.
What's the cover price on Bone? It's the best-selling comic book, guys. What's the I don't buy it. It's the best-selling book though. What's the cover price? Ding ding ding.
I haven't seen Bone in a store in a decade.
Ding. Yeah, but they're better selling. They're reaching an audience. They're getting out there. Kids are buying it. They're in libraries.
Isn't that true? That's
Bone. Yeah, Bone's the biggest. It's the biggest selling comic book, guys. And the name of the game is get it out there, guys. You tell me Marvel's making more money off of or DC off of Birds of Prey than they're making off of Bone. Bone's making way more money.
From a short-term business perspective,
it's not short-term business. They're huge. Bone has been doing good for years. What do you mean short-term? Bone has been.
I don't know, man. I look at all the sales. I don't see like Bone competing with Dogman.
I don't think it's as big as you think.
No, Bone's huge, guys. Huge. It's a big seller. Big. It's bigger than the DC titles.
I have not seen it in a store in a decade.
Yeah, well, when I was selling books at the heavy metal show, you didn't see Boneyard books at the Lone Star Comics in Texas because Lone Star Comics, the biggest retail chain, banned Boneyard Press from their stores. But I still had killer sales because I went outside the distribution chain. I went outside the stores. So I had better sales than the other independent publishers because I went to the rock show, because I went to the S&M show, because I went to the poetry show, because I went to every kind of different show, because you got to get readers. So for you to poo-poo Bone, that's crazy.
I'm not poo-pooing Bone. I'm just saying I've done all the research on the sales and I don't remember seeing Bone.
Huge. They're huge. And you called it right, Doctor. It's through Scholastic Media. It's through like the schools and stuff. So how come Marvel and DC don't have like books for schools?
They do.
Yeah,
they don't sell.
No, Bone is one of those titles, and it's a good title. And no shade to Bone. I mean, the guy's making money. It is like a Dogman. It's like a Babysitter Club. It's like these books that have either formed deals with Scholastic or others. There's a few out there. They get their books into bookstores. They get their books through schools. They have a different distribution channel. We hear on and on and on about, you need to reach kids. Well,
but wait a minute. Isn't it what I just said? Part of the pricing went up because they destroyed the chain of distribution. And now we're talking about a book that's super successful because they went outside the normal chain of distribution.
No, what are you trying to say? Is absolutely
we're advocating for that.
Exactly. So, but it sounds as if you're putting it down. You're saying, well, that's because
I'm saying, putting Bone down.
No, it's just not. It's there's things to learn from this distribution. I think Dogman does infinitely better than any of the things we're talking about. I mean,
I myself, I've never heard of Dogman.
Ooh,
they just made a movie out of it.
Yeah, that's the number one.
Than Jeebus.
That is the number one book in this space.
Everybody's seen the Faust movie.
But so Dogman is I mean, it's a massive. But look, the key here
it sells
is
like 20,000 or 20 million copies, whatever. There's like the first print run.
Oh, the Raina Telgemeier stuff. I think, but
Dogman's moving that many books.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good job, guys. Good job. Congratulations to the guys at Dogman.
Yeah. No, but they did. They handled distribution in place, not just in a direct comic shop. They went to Targets, they went to grocery stores, they went everywhere with it. They don't. You know me where Marvel
used to be sold and DC used to be sold?
I didn't know that. Yeah. No. Yeah. But it is. Those books, and Bone is one of them as well. It's not coming out every month, and they're just tuning. And that's not to dismiss it. It's just they know the market they're going after. They know that a kid or parents can come up with the $5.99 to $7.99 that a Dogman.
You mean they actually know their market and care about their market and try to cater to their customers?
Yeah.
What a bad business model. What are they doing? Where's the hologram covers? How come they don't have a crossover? What's going on here?
Dogman crosses over with Captain Underpants, man.
Does he?
Well, there's also what is it? Cat.
Huge.
There's another one, Cat.
And those are comics for kids, made for kids.
And
I mean,
that's
yeah,
important, guys.
Okay,
The
Todd.
comics made for kids is really important, and that's when we get to the price point. Because I think, Wes, I think it was your video that you were talking about how, if you're going to pay $10 a book over a couple of months, you might as well buy the Batman game for the $60.
Yes.
Yeah, you said that, and it's true. I
You get
started
40 or
playing all
50
those-
hours of gameplay.
Yeah, and you're going to get hours and hours, and it's fun being Batman. It is fun. I really enjoyed the Deadpool game. I love the Deadpool game. I like a lot of those superhero games. They're a lot of fun. They really are, and that's where comic books have to remember it's the story, and you got to get it out there. The distribution's really important. As you're talking, Perch. Should I just call you Perch?
Yeah, whatever. You can call me asshole.
The way you're breaking it down is exactly right. They're catering to their market. They know their market, and that's what it's about. Like for me with horror, okay, why do I not have like a computer program my TV network? Why do I do it? Because I'm the fan, because I know my audience. I know my consumer from all the years of being at conventions, shaking hands, being on podcasts like with you guys, arguing over movies, arguing over comic books. But it's out of the love of the medium and the love of what we're into. We're passionate about what we like. And that's what it takes, and that passion isn't there at Marvel. That passion isn't there at DC. So there's also the issue of corporate parents that own these companies that don't care. They do not care. We're talking about DC Comics. Everybody wants to talk about cancellation. They had people vote on whether or not to kill a child. Robin's a child. Robin's a minor, and they had a thing where they were going to vote whether or not the Joker kills Robin. Well, guess what? They voted to kill a child. Oh, yay! Corporate media.
And that thing made so much money. I don't know. It like that was a funny time.
Isn't it sick though? It's
You
pretty
had people.
sick.
Well,
It's
yeah.
sick to vote on whether or not to kill a kid, and you're going to say that you're a comic book company because
It's
when I
a fictional story.
No,
This
it's
isn't about
still-
voting to actually kill
still,
a
this
child.
is-
How is this
it
sick?
was.
What are we talking
It's-
about?
Jason had it
This is
coming.
insane.
We're talking about
Voting
marketing
to
and
kill a
sales,
child?
and we're
What?
talking about knowing your audience. You know what I
Jason was
mean?
a
What the
complete
fuck are we
punk. He
talking
had it
about?
coming.
And their audience definitely wanted to murder that fucking kid. So I'm good with it.
Yeah,
It's just funny when people talk about their morality, and Rick Veitch made the point on my interview with him on Comics Labyrinth. He said that comic publishers exploit children, and that is exploiting children, or the idea of this is Batman's for kids. Batman is not like it's not mature readers. That's not a mature reader's book, guys.
You haven't been reading Batman, for a
Batman
while.
goes
You've
all
never
over the
known.
spectrum. You can have
I'm
Batman
just
books that are
saying-
for kids,
I'm
and you can have
just
Batman
saying,
books that are
if you're
for
go-
adults, and they can
you're
all exist. I think
I think there's
Batman's only
maybe
for kindergarten is
exploitation.
retarded. That is
There
not
might be
true.
5 or 6 books from Marvel and DC right now that I think are probably for kids, and I might be being pretty generous on that. It's stuff like
And,
Teen
if
Titans
we're,
Go
and,
and
if,
whatever.
and if we're being really honest,
Uh-huh.
our definition of what's for kids now and what was for kids in
Uh-huh.
the 70s and 80s
Right.
is far more sanitized.
Like I had this individual issue in 1983 in the 5th grade, and it's one of Jason Todd's first appearances as Robin. And you have Crazy Quilt beating up a small child. So this has been going on in these.
Exactly.
It
Rick
was back
Veitch
when it was
did
made for
Brat
kids.
Pack in the 90s. He did Brat Pack in the 90s talking about this. It's a thing. The Marvel and DC exploit their audience. Bone is catering to their audience. Now, if you only exploit your audience, you're going to have a steadily deteriorating circle of readership. So if you don't care about the needs of your audience, if you don't care about the needs of your customer, you're going to implode. And that is DC and Marvel. DC doesn't even have a real office. I believe they're doing office share. Like they do timeshare in their office, and people have their desk for this many
I
hours.
thought they were in the Warner Brothers. I thought that was just why they were switching buildings.
That was,
Bert.
yeah, that's why
That could have been it. I could be totally wrong.
that was during their transition from New
Okay.
York to
To
LA.
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I-
That
But I
makes
think we
sense.
could,
And Mark
we
Waid
could
was
all
sharing
agree
it.
that the pricing model has gotten out of hand. And I know you watched a video this week, Sully, and it got you all sad about it.
Oh,
Why were
geez.
you so sad? Why did you start? Why are you losing hope? Because of pricing?
Sus Gabe got me. Sus Gabe, our friend Gabe Hernandez of Comical Opinions, he had this very subject about the prices of comic books, and he kind of blackpilled me in a way. And now I'm not completely blackpilled. I'm just, a lot of this is just for like, you know, the fun of the show. But it hit me in the gut because I am a Wednesday warrior. I am the one who's paying $4.99 an issue of Superman and Green Lantern and Ultimate Spider-Man. And he's saying, like, you know, the serialized floppy that I love and adore, that I've grown up on. You know what? It really is passe, and it really is an artifact, and it is marketing to the big two and their corporate overlords. I mean, there is kind of no point to the serialized floppy anymore.
And that's why vinyl isn't being sold in Target right now.
Yeah, but that's a niche market, and we'll always have
It's
this
cyclical.
niche market.
It's cyclical. It's not niche. If it's in Target, how could it be niche?
Because we have
Target's mainstream. They're selling more vinyl than they're selling comic books. I'll tell you right now, they're selling more vinyl at Target than they're selling comic books in the stores.
And on Amazon,
vinyl's niche though. Yeah,
you know, but vinyl,
it's niche, but it's still selling more than comics in Target. If it's niche, how come comics aren't in Target?
Yeah, no, the comics are in Target in a way. They sell those bagged ones too, right?
Are they?
You've got
That's
manga,
a good
you've
thing
got
if they are.
graphic novels. You have, you know, again, some of the things we talked about earlier with what's
Dog
there for
Man
kids are there. So if you take that, but I mean, it's a silly comparison in a way, because you're talking about a tiny section in the media place in a rapidly shrinking part of Target, and you're talking about books in a rapidly shrinking part of Target. I mean, you don't want to be either of those islands, quite frankly.
No, you really, really do not, because all of them are just running down the clock until they're not there at all anymore.
I do agree with Hart's opinion on that Marvel and DC stopped serving their customer, and they shrunk down their customer base here, Perch. And I think the overall effect right now is, I don't think there are very many comic books that are even created with the intent of us to really read them. I think they're just created as outlets to become collectibles.
Well, I think Billy over at She is doing it because he wants people to read it.
But we're talking about
we're talking about
Marvel and DC.
Yeah, they don't give a damn. They don't care at all. I mean, Marvel's owned by the great whore Disney.
Baphomet.
But is that the impression that you're getting these days, Perch, when you're talking to people behind the scenes, that they're really just thinking about them as vehicles for variant covers and other gimmicks, you know, like blind bags or whatever they can throw onto it to make a quick buck today, but never think about, is this book even going to be read in 10 years?
Well, think about this, guys. Look at how
I'm talking to Perch, please. We want some other people to talk.
We could throw back. I'll give you a quick answer. I think the people inside the companies, if you're talking about DC, there is a desire to get people to read their books. Now, whether they're doing the right strategies or not is a different story, but there absolutely is a desire to try and grow the line, get things out there. We'll see where it pans out. They're also in the midst of potentially getting a change in acquisition. So if a Universal or Paramount or somebody comes in, then that changes the game completely. That, when you're a big corporate entity, that is the game. With Marvel, it's very similar. They know they're going to get absorbed into Disney at a greater level. They know that some of those jobs are going to get collapsed. They know that they're facing a world of maybe they continue the line or maybe they license it out. And so in many cases, what Marvel's just trying to do is keep the numbers up as much as they can, so that when they enter into this next phase of their life, it's financially as good as possible for them. That's where they're at. Yeah. So I don't think either group is necessarily thinking about, in 10 years, I've got a Watchmen book on the shelf of whatever I'm doing right now, you know, something along those lines. DC, I think, is more thinking about that. Marvel's just thinking about, let's try and get through the 2 years and see what's left. That's the mentality. Unfortunately, we're in a state of transition.
Revenue maximization.
Perch, to address your notion about DC and Marvel, and you brought up Watchmen, how much does it hurt the industry and hurt the retailer that so many of the books from Marvel and DC are only being printed every year to maintain their copyrights? Like Watchmen is only being reprinted every year so that they keep the copyright. There's several
it's
titles.
Still the number one selling DC trade paperback every year.
Is it? Is Watchmen the number one? I didn't know.
Yeah, no.
Look,
that's their easy money. I mean, if you look at what sells on Amazon, you look at kind of the graphic novels there.
Yeah.
You know, you have your Watchmen, you have your Dark Knight Returns, you have your Civil War, you have your Secret Wars, you have all of the classics there.
Yeah, my LCS can't keep that compact version in stock.
And that's
seriously, you mean the digest size?
That's been super smart.
That's super awesome.
Yeah, the Tankobon sized books is just the smartest thing in the world. I mean, It only took them 6 years, but they did finally get to doing it. So that's good. But again, that's just keeping old stories in circulation. I think the core story,
and maintaining your copyright so you can keep screwing the copyright holder, the guy who created it, like let's say Alan Moore.
Yeah, but it's I mean, yes, it's money. I mean, you know, to your question, I think of, are they thinking right now about 10 years, 20 years from now, stories coming out right now or in that same zone? DC's hoping a little. Marvel, I haven't met anybody at the editorial level that is really thinking about that. They're thinking about, am I going to have a job in 6 months? So that's just.
I think of modern books that are going to be read in 20 years. I'm thinking TMNT: The Last Ronin, which I think that's been proven in the marketplace that's definitely got legs. But maybe like Transformers.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I think the Turtles will transcend. I think you hit it on The Last Ronin. I think the Turtle stuff I think they'll talk about the independent stuff. Just like we do now. I think they'll talk about Turtles. What they did with Last Ronin was fantastic. The reinvention of the Turtles has been really great to see. I'm so happy to see them turn that around.
I do think this comment's going to land like a ton of bricks with everyone. You and the audience.
I'm going to love it,
but
dude.
Here you go.
Do it.
If you look at the 80s, you look at some of the early 90s, we remember the books that are super powerful. You remember The Dark Knight Returns. You remember Batman Year One. You remember Watchmen because they're still being put out there. You don't remember the 70 books, 80 books that were also on the shelves. And one of the things I think was mentioned earlier is, look, they're still publishing. Marvel's still putting out 80 books a month. We're not going to remember 80 bucks in 10 years. There's a high likelihood we'll remember one. Are one of these series going to still be out there? Are they still going to be going back to the well? And again, nobody.
You never know. Look at Rocky Raccoon.
Sure. Yeah. There will be.
You never know with these titles what's going to catch somebody's eye later. You know, Daredevil was a throwaway character until Frank Miller got a hold of it. You know, Green Arrow keeps coming back depending on who writes them. That's the thing about these characters is, again, it comes back to the stories and engaging somebody. And something's cool for a while, then it's passé. Wolverine's hot for a while, then it's Deadpool's hot, then Batman's hot. You know what I mean? Like my friend Trike at Trike's Comic Alley, they don't move DC at all. DC's not selling for those guys at all. Not at all. Just outside of Batman. You know what I mean? And then the movies, they never seem to utilize the movies properly. You don't ever see like cheap comics or any comics at the movie theater when the new Superman movie comes out.
Yeah.
Why not have a point of purchase thing that's there, a standee? There's a little one right up there by the stand, you know, at the counter where you're getting your popcorn. You got a couple of Batman books.
Pay for money for that.
Yeah, they would pay for that.
Is it worth it?
But look at it this way. I mean, maybe a different way to look at it, but you got to be all in on Marvel for a moment. Okay, so 10 years from now, I believe that the Powers of 10, that book that launched the Critical Era, that will still be sold. You'll see it on Amazon. You'll see it in the book list. The hardcover will be there.
But it doesn't lead anywhere. That's the problem.
It doesn't matter.
Although it is a very good story.
It doesn't really matter. It matters to me as a comic fan and as a reader. But if we're talking about what's going to still be in circulation 10 years from now, what's going to be bought in those Amazon books, that it will. It absolutely will. Now, will Inferno, the story that came out a couple of years later, not the original one in the 90s, but the Hickman one. No, that one's not going to get sold in big quantities. The original run of everybody's favorite Kamala Khan Miss Marvel is still going to be sold in hardcovers 10 years from now. Will any of the later issues? No. If you look at this year, is One World Under Doom going to be in hardcover 10 years from now? Probably not. I have a really hard time believing that. But we just got to look. Will the first run of Moon Knight collect in hardcover sell? Probably. So it's
that's a throwaway character that nobody expected to come back. When it came out with Bill Sienkiewicz, when it first was done, it got canceled at issue 30 or something like that.
Yeah.
And now here we are talking about this character, and it's popular now, and it's got its own TV show. Or Master of Kung Fu. That was one of my favorite books growing up as a kid. Who knew that would become like a Marvel movie at all? I mean, they screwed up the character completely, but who knew? And that's the thing about with all these different characters, it's what's going to excite that one reader. And so you say 80 books. Who knew Guardians of the Galaxy would be huge? That was a throwaway title when it came out. No one gave a damn about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Sales on Guardians still aren't good. Even the run from the British guy that did that one. Who was it?
The Ultimate Spider-Man book that's going out right now will be collected, will be on the Amazon top 20 list 10 years from now. I don't know.
It has been for last year.
It will. Now, the Ultimates Unlikely, highly unlikely. But Ultimate Spider-Man will be there. So it's kind of like it's very easy and very understandable.
That's correct.
Yeah,
I think this is a really hard thing to predict, guys. I think it really is. And I could tell you, one of my characters at Boneyard Press just got optioned by a publisher. Atrocity Comics is going to be doing new Build-A-Bull comics. So they licensed the character from me. They're going to do new Build-A-Bull. That was one of my people loved the character, but it didn't sell that good, guys. Build-A-Bull never really had big numbers, but it stood out in people's minds. So it's 30 years later, and now this other company is licensing the character. Look at how some of the Charleston characters the Charlton characters that are now all over with Peacemaker in the TV show from James Gunn, or Starro was the villain in the Suicide Squad movie. These characters can have a life beyond what we see, completely beyond, and you never know what's going to take off. Who knew that the term, there was the Outlaw Comics? Who knew Outlaw Comics would become a thing? We were just the guys that did the weird, sick horror books or the weird bad girl books, and we were dismissed and completely thrown under the bus. And we didn't have the Marvel numbers, but we stood out. And that's what's important, is to stand out. And I think part of what's the thing with these comics is, at Marvel and DC, you definitely, with the idea of a sociopath, it's just a pimp exploiting their hooker on the corner, and they don't care. There's going to be a new hooker next week, and they'll smack her around and they'll make the get on that corner. But also there's the issue of, I think that the big corporations, the reason we're not going to remember their storytelling is because they're frozen with the notion of political correctness, wokeism. I can't say this, look out for that politics. I can't be of this thing. I can't be of that thing. And all these don'ts get in the way of telling a great story. They get in the way of it. I can't have that character because it looks like I'm endorsing this thing. I can't talk about this thing that happened in the news because it looks like I'm endorsing it. And I think that freezes your creative team. And that's part of why these books are so dismissive. They don't deal with things. They're like the back in the 70s with Green Arrow. And
let's get back to these writing prizes. We're going.
Well, they dealt with heroin addiction. They dealt with heroin addiction, and that's something that was a big thing with Neil Adams.
This isn't a novice comic book channel. All the viewers are going to know that they did the Speedy story.
Yeah, so, but you get what I'm saying. Like those guys were daring to tell interesting stories that they felt compelled to do, like the Taboos and the Bissettes and the Alan Moores. Yeah. They weren't fettered the way that DC and Marvel are now. They're terrified of doing the wrong thing with their characters.
I'm ready for Doc to scream at me about Longshot.
I'm ready for Doc to scream about Tinny Howard.
Longshot, Arthur Adams. That was a fun book. I like that book. That was fun.
Did you read Phoenix number 15?
Hold on, fellas. Stop. I'm taking back control. We're going to have a conversation here. Dylan, you haven't talked in over an hour. You're the youngest man here. You're not a Gen Xer like the rest of us. Do you consider yourself a Zoomer or millennial?
I'm technically Gen Z.
All right, so you're technically a Zoomer. You are the voice of a younger generation. Do you feel like the comic book prices have gotten out of hand, or they're getting too expensive, or does this feel like it's about right for you because maybe they haven't gone up quite as much in your lifetime?
It's definitely too expensive. I remember when Rebirth was like, we're drawing the line at $2.99, and that lasted a couple months, and then quickly you had $4 books, and now it feels like every comic is $5 minimum, and it doesn't feel like you're getting any more for your money. So it's not good, especially when you're trying to recommend comics to someone, and it's hard to be like, hey, go pay $5 for 22 pages. And then you're going to have to wait a month for the next part of it when people are used to now like getting an entire season and binging it in a week. And it's like, pay $5, get 22 pages, wait a month. Oh, the book got delayed. Wait a couple months and then you'll get part 2. And so it's not great right now.
A book that really should only take maybe 44 pages to tell, and they're going to pad it out to 132 and charge you 3 times the amount.
I mean, Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men is $4.99 a month. That is like that's
because nobody buys
terrible book. That is a terrible book.
So obviously, I think most people here agree that comic book pricing has gotten out of hand. Perch, you've been in the industry, you've been a retailer, you have a lot of these conversations. I know you and I talk behind the scenes. I've said the only way that they would be able to lower prices, they being Marvel and DC, I'm not talking about the other publishers because they would basically fall line, is that they would have to treat comic books as a loss leader, and then they would have to open up a pipeline of cheap digital options as a gateway. The old school spinner rack, but being on your tablet would be the way to do it. Do you agree with me, or am I being too simple on this?
Is one way. I think you do need to have a digital strategy for sure. I mean, you see how it's operated in Japan. It's one factor. A digital strategy also means person reading it has to have a tablet and a phone. And while a lot of people do have that, if your goal is to get kids, you got to have another approach. I mean, at the end of the day, to attack pricing, and it's spoken about this to death, you have to attack distribution. You have to get comics more places. If you get comics more places, you get the economy of scale, and now you can produce more. It's like, look, we've talked to a bunch of people who are doing crowdfunding. You print 1,000 books, it's going to cost you this amount. If you can print 10,000 books, it will cost you less to produce those. But if you don't have a place to sell those 10,000 books, you're stuck at the 1,000 mark, which means you're going to be paying more. And if you're paying more, okay, now the margin has to be tighter. So the person you're selling through has no incentive to sell. If they have no incentive to sell, they're going to go to things that are easier to make money off of, which then further lowers your scale. But if you can get that scale and that distribution up, you can then actually be attractive to advertisers. Right now we're talking about ads. There is no world for ads in comics right now at any kind of decent rate because the numbers aren't high enough. You get the numbers high enough, you can absolutely bring in the Mattels and I don't know, Mattel be the first person you go to, but just, current brands. You could easily get them in there, but you have to be able to have an offering to them. You have to be able to say, look, I can bring you 5 million copies of distribution here. So it's worth that money. That's the game that has to be played. And if you can do that, all three of those things allow you to drop the price. And if you drop the price, then you get more people who can buy them. So your scale goes up. It's a nice circle that happens. Today, you are trapped in a tiny market. And so you're really kind of racing to the bottom to some extent where you have to raise your prices in order to make anything. And I know the same thing with a comment on paper. You could switch to paper, but if the distribution is not fixed and the margin is not fixed, it doesn't matter.
And
so
with distribution perch, how do you reach the audiences? Because it's different now. It's a fractured audience. I've been really wrestling with this with advertising my film festival. How do you reach your audience? Because it's fractured. People are on their games. People go to this website. They go to that website. They're not on Facebook. They used to be on Facebook. They're gone now. They're on Instagram. They're over here. They're over there. And it's shifting. So not only is it difficult for your distribution, it's difficult to advertise. It's difficult to reach your audience, especially if you're an independent, because Facebook and the social media structure favor the giant corporations and shut down independents, especially if you do horror. If you do horror, you face massive censorship issues on social media. It's a real problem, big problem.
Now, there are people who are fixing it today. The reason, and I know it goes counter to a lot of what people say in videos, but at the end of the day, the reason why manga has had success it's in way more places than comics. You can get it in convenience stores like a Walmart or a Target. You can find it in an airport. You can find it lots of places where people are. And, bluntly, as somebody who lived in Japan for a period of time and reads a lot of this manga is more, quote unquote, woke than a lot of the stuff we talk about with US comics. There's plenty of there's entire genre of BL that does just fine, but they're in more places. They got there. And the
Japanese have a different consumption of comics than I had a Japanese wife. I spent a lot of time in Japan. In fact, we were marketing American horrors to foreign audiences at first because she was Japanese and she was a translator. So when you're talking about that market, you're talking about a market that's still focused on adult consumers. Our industry poo-pooed adult consumers. I was a victim of that with the censorship that I underwent, because the notion that it was just a child's medium, and now there aren't really kids buying it. You need kids buying these books. You got to keep bringing in the new people, especially after what we've been seeing with I call it the great die-off. Most of the people that were buying comics since the olden times, the main consumers, no one's wrestling with the other issue of people are dying. They're dying. The consumers in America are dying. The age group is aging out and they're dead, or they've got kids and they can't afford the books anymore. So affordability is a big one. Perch, where's your store?
30 years, man. What are you talking about? Gen X is probably the biggest part of consumer comic books in America.
No,
They're,
for sure. No,
but they're all dying off. They're all dying off.
I'm
My
not
friends,
dying off. I'm only
no.
47.
they're dying off. How old was
dying
John
off.
Cassaday when John Cassaday dropped dead? 51. I've got
Yeah.
3 friends that dropped dead in the last 3 months.
I know a
People
guy that
are
died when he
dying
was
all
20.
over
That
the
doesn't
place.
mean all 20-year-olds are dying off. Like, come
mean,
on.
They're not buying them though. They're not buying the comic books. 20-year-olds are not buying. He just said he can't.
Well, yeah,
afford
I
the
was
books.
making an example that you're providing causality with coincidence.
I'm
People-
talking
Yes,
about
people in their
not
50s
growing-
are going to
not
die,
growing
but
the
we're not
consumer
all
base.
dying.
Yeah.
Your consumer base is dying off, and you're not growing the consumer base. You're pricing out the younger consumer. He just said that they
Yeah.
priced him out, right?
No, we've
You in the corner.
established all that.
You-
Yeah.
I'm pointing at you in the
You
corner.
pointed at the other guy. Yeah, you pulled it.
I don't know who
Dylan.
we're talking about. But to Wes's
Not
question
Hirsch,
there,
the young guy. He's
what-
priced out of the market. What's your name?
Dylan.
Dylan.
yeah.
Dylan made the point. Like I
Love you,
can't
Dylan.
afford these. I can't recommend these. So that's pointing to my point is your consumers dying, and you're not bringing in new consumers. Right, Perch? I mean, are you seeing a lot of what
Yeah,
books have you got to sell to kids?
You're bringing in new consumers, but the consumers are going to Demon Slayer, which my daughter's going to go see later today. You're bringing consumers into
Is Demon
Jujutsu
Slayer
Kaisen.
manga?
You're bringing
Mm.
consumers into Dogman. You're bringing consumers into that.
Okay,
That's where you're bringing the consumers. Now,
Okay.
the DC Compact Comics we talked about earlier.
but they're not
will
buying
help.
Archie.
No, but I mean, Archie is a product of its time. I think
Mhm.
you could revive Archie, sure. But to Wes's question earlier, I think there is a digital strategy is required here. Japan, as much as everybody loves to talk about how amazing it was in the 90s, was struggling with a lot of the manga and the distribution. They leaned in hard in 2000 to about 2005 with old feature phones, putting panel by panel on those devices and running digital. It was very rudimentary. And it fit that audience. People are on the train; they're not
So
driving.
you're saying Japan hit the digital first? They were the
Oh,
leader on the digital
100% they hit
comics.
digital first, and they have a
Okay.
robust, good market with digital. We haven't cracked it in the U.S. in any meaningful way.
Yeah, the Shonen Jump app is just superior to
every
especially
way.
if you're a parent.
Oh yeah. I mean, look at it, but it's $3 a month, I think, unless they've raised a subscription recently. $3 a month, all you can eat of everything that's on that thing. And then a really easy way when you read it to push a button, it takes you immediately to Amazon and you can buy it. And that is a good cycle to do.
Absolutely. So it's been a fun conversation. Let's hear from the people. So they wanted to chime here. Sleep and Dakel. I would happily take a comic on cheaper paper if it made them cheaper. Floppy comics.
Me
as much
too.
as I
Me
love
too.
them, should not be much more expensive than what's in the checkout aisle.
That's the point. It's
Yeah.
impulse buy territory.
I
It
can't-
must live in an impulse buy price range in order to grow an audience. Because it has to be something that people are willing to try when they're not currently buying it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to get someone that like I was saying my point earlier, not necessarily that comics are too expensive for me. I'm saying like introducing my friends that aren't necessarily into comics into a new medium of storytelling. Be like, you gotta drop $5 on 22 pages and then wait a while for the next part. It's hard to get someone to do that.
Yeah, the basic customer psychology of, hey, try this thing that you don't currently like and see if you like it is fine at $2. It doesn't happen at $5.
Yeah.
So I personally think, obviously we get better paper, it's thicker, it's more glossy and all that kind of stuff now. But I think that the comic books kind of look better on newsprint anywhere. I think the coloring especially just look better.
It's a preference, I think. Unfortunately,
The glossy paper makes it too dark.
Yeah, no offense to you, by the way, or anybody here with what I'm about to say. I mean, with comics and that kind of taste, you are a product of your time. I had plenty of people in the 90s back in Seattle and these areas coming and buying comics, and they're like, comics have not looked the same since the 70s. I love those old books. I love the independent look. I love the feel and everything else. I hate this 90s look. And now today it's the same thing. So it's when you entered comics and you fell in love with it, chances are you fell in love with how it looked. And it just that tends to be how it is. Now I also like an era.
It's a comic book. You're not saying anything we don't know. Of course, it's how it looks.
Right.
What?
It's the art. It's the art style.
No.
It's the
What
coloring
I'm
style.
saying is the coloring and how it looks on the paper.
Yeah, your preference on.
Yeah, you tend to like an era, and then it evolves over time.
Like I grew up in the
links to your
80s. I had
nostalgia,
64
yeah.
colors. I mean, that's where
I
it
would
peaked.
definitely go for cheaper paper though.
Well,
I think
the
it even
consumer,
feels
the
better. You
consumer's
can
different.
switch between the pages. Yeah.
Aren't
Well-
there guys that love black and white? There's guys that want anime. There's guys that want manga. I mean, not all manga's color. I mean, the great thing about manga was manga
Most
kind of
manga
changed
is
my
in
whole
color.
art style. Yeah, it's mostly black and white, guys. It's the excitement of the story. It's the excitement of the art, and yeah, it's whatever captures your attention. And it's also how old you are. When did you discover it? What did you see before that? And it leads you into different things. So of course it changes. It's cyclical, of course. But then art styles are always shifting and changing. I mean, I was reading the underground comics, reading the Marvel comics, and the kids are the same way. I was just watching the new Blood and Robots, or the animation series on Netflix.
Love and Robots.
Yeah, Love and Robots, and it's fantastic because every animation is like its own unique style. It's all different. You know what I mean? And that's what I like.
We're just talking about if they went to newsprint and it
Here's-
made prices cheaper. I was like, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't be losing much in my opinion.
Well,
But
here's, if we go back to, honestly, it's like around 1994. So you still had a relatively high print rate, like, circulation rate on most of these books. Yeah, it was down from a couple of years ago. You were right on the cusp of the distributor war and the implosion and everything like that. But that was when Marvel introduced something that really has had a lot of trickle down effect across the entire industry. It's when they were basically each month they were releasing the regular version, and they introduced the deluxe version. Now, back then, the paper at that kind of scale, your actual cost, with the volume of an individual issue that they were selling, the difference between newsprint and the glossy paper that they went to, negligible on that part, on their part. However, it also included a 45-cent price hike. It went from $1.50 to $1.95.
all right,
and-
dude. We've had a lot of history lessons here, Doc.
Well, no, but my point on this is that they used that as an opportunity to it was the largest price jump that they had ever seen. And they made the paper better, but it was at no real cost to them. And
no, it's a cost. It's a cost. The better paper, again, it's heavier shipping.
I
cost.
understand that, but they're not paying the shipping cost.
Yeah,
They're
they
not
are paying
paying
the shipping cost.
All right,
unless
I don't want to
Diamond
do
picked
this
up from the
anymore.
printer.
You guys are this is going so far fucking off the rails. We're gonna power through this. Sleep McDankle, the comics industry forgot that accessibility is how you foster fans who will spend real money. And I think that's one of the real issues that happened here, Dylan. I think that Marvel did realize in the mid 2000s, maybe early 2010s, that there was an accessibility issue with their comic books, but they incorrectly identified that the accessibility issue was that the characters weren't relatable to the new audience that they wanted. And so they went and attacked that instead of realizing that the accessibility issue was that they were too expensive and they weren't where people were.
Yeah, we see that with DC's compact comics. Those are selling well, even because they haven't chosen all the best comics for those compact comics. Even the bad ones are selling well because it's $10 and you get the full story, and they're everywhere. Because as we know, bookstores like Barnes and Nobles and stuff has shrunk their comics a lot, but they carry those compact comics and people are buying them because
Strangely,
it's easily
I have-
accessible.
In
I
fact,
have
it's
not
my
been
understanding that
seeing-
it's one of their best-selling items. Is DC's best-selling item is the digest-sized books that you're talking about,
Absolutely.
especially with the
Right.
print on demand through Amazon.
Oddly enough, I have not been seeing them much in airports, which is where I would have expected to see them.
They lost their deal with Hudson.
Oh, they did?
Mm.
Okay,
Or they're
that
retracting
explains it.
Yeah. I don't think if people understand, and this is kind of to the distribution comment, you have a couple people that control massive amounts of the shops you're talking about. So if you're going to airports, you're dealing with Hudson. Hudson's going to give you about 80% of all the airports in the US.
And that's newsstand. Is that returnable?
Oh, no, none of this is
Okay.
returnable.
So the airport stuff is not returnable.
No, they sell it. That's why you will go into airports. You will go into, I don't know, a smaller, like a Burbank airport or something, and you'll see books there sometimes that are, 6 years old and are just sitting there. That's what's going on. Now,
Gotcha.
in many cases, there's a secondary market that can push it off to their relationship with half-price books or stuff like that. But that's what's going on.
Do you agree with my thesis on accessibility and them recognizing or incorrectly identifying the accessibility issue that they had, Perch?
I do. No, I think you're right. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think you have to know your customers. I don't think the publishers have a great sense of that. I think they lean too heavily on, you got a guy like Scott Snyder who's out there trying to understand what the customers want, and then good on him to do that. He's a freelance writer. Is that really the best person in your corporation to be doing that? It's nice that he's doing it, but my goodness, like shouldn't a full-time employee be doing that? That's the weird part.
They had actually tried addressing it a couple of years prior, by trying to bring back the newsstand, but they did it through trying to put together a distribution deal with fucking Toys R Us. In 2006, 2007, when that didn't work, they decided, oh, well, that apparently wasn't the answer. And then they went to the way you mentioned.
RateX7, could the cost of the big two comics be reduced if instead of publishing 20 individual monthly series, they publish 4 oversized monthly anthology titles with 5 ongoing series within each title?
No.
No, because you wouldn't have to print, you wouldn't have to do 20 individual print runs, you do 5.
I understand that, but no, the actual price for those 5 books would be closer to $15 to $20 at release date. And again, you're not solving the problem of that. Just exacerbates the existing problem.
Yeah, but that's a reduction from the 25 it was.
It doesn't matter. Now you're asking it's the same thing as the DC mega books at fucking Walmart that were 80-page giants at $5. People don't try it the higher the price gets.
I'm with you, Doc. I'm with you,
Doc. It doesn't matter if you're giving more content. You're still charging a higher price.
So we don't think the Shonen Jump magazine has a place in American comics? I think that's probably correct.
Guys, aren't we talking about the Savage Sword of Conan or any of the old Bizarre Adventures that Marvel used to do this, and they'd have different titles and different characters that would show up, like Master of Kung Fu was in a magazine first, the Hands of Kung Fu. So they did kind of that, but they discontinued their whole magazine model. They're gone. They're long gone. That's all gone. It seems to me like a manga anthology, but you're going to get people that don't like the other characters in the anthology. They don't want them. They don't want to pay the extra for those other characters.
Yeah, but I thought the magazine format of the 70s was to circumvent the comics code, correct?
A lot of
100%.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I didn't know that.
That was exactly why they did that.
That makes sense then. Okay.
But keep in mind, Wes, I do think Shonen Jump type, and I was looking around my office here. I cannot find it for the life of me, but there's now a new one that's specific to the US. It's got a bunch of manga short stories. It's being sold in a lot of kind of some grocery stores, at least where I am. It's being sold in a lot of the manga stores, places like Box Lunch, Bang, those kinds of places. They're selling these, and it's the exact same thing. It's almost like a mini phone book anthology of a ton of books. They're doing really well, and the price tag on them is under $10. So it's
wow.
You're getting this huge chunk of material. It's not newsprint exactly. It's kind of it's the same format that the manga the tankobons are. So it is cheaper paper. It's not exactly what we had in the 70s and 80s, but it's definitely cheaper.
Is it original content or is it reprints?
No, it's original content. It's just like Shonen Jump. It's chapter based. So they're basically commissioning a story. They're cutting it up 8 pages at a time. You're putting it in there. It's the exact same format as what Jump had. It's doing really well. It's $10. Yeah.
But is it targeted at existing manga readers, or is it more targeted towards non-readers to convert them?
I think it's both. I will get the name for the chat like in a second, so other people can jump in here, and I'll search around where the hell it went in this office. But there's it's a clever thing, and I think if you're Marvel or you're DC, you should be doing that right now. It would be an easy way to also onboard new creative talent that maybe aren't ready for prime time, where you can get 8 pages out of them in a relatively easy fashion. You don't worry about color. It's just right now in the industry, we should be trying a number of things. They're not all going to work, but we should be trying a lot of different formats to get that audience back.
But that price point is reasonable.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I can't,
reasonable.
picture it in your hand. It's like it's like half of, yeah, exactly, Wes. It's
about the
like half
size
a
of
phone book.
About the size of a solid paperback novel.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah,
I mean, like
$10.
wise.
It's a great deal, and you're getting a ton of stories, and you don't feel bad if 4 of the stories suck and the 5th one's good because you paid $10 for it, and you got like 30 stories in there. It's a great way to go. So,
Sleeve McNichol, when I was working 15 when I was 15 working at McDonald's, sorry about that, I could easily buy comics. Now I'm in my 30s and working 9 to 5, I can't buy regularly.
Booyah.
Well, part of that has to do with when you were 15, you were probably also living with mom and dad. Now you have rent or a mortgage. But the point remains.
I think even a 15-year-old working at McDonald's living at home with mom and dad would be hard pressed to afford these books. These are really expensive for any kid to be buying the books. I mean, what are they, online entrepreneurs or something? You know what I'm saying? These books are pretty damn expensive. And we get back to there's competition, guys. There's so much. That's the other thing about, okay, you want to bring the price down. You got to bring the price down because other forms of entertainment are so damn cheap. Because I could go buy a used video game for $10. And it doesn't matter if it's new. I could go buy the used one. God of War is like a comic book. I love those games. They're a lot of fun. I love the Batman games. I think I bought one Batman game new. By the time I got done, it took me so long because as an adult, like you said, I got a job. But the comics are pretty easy to digest, and that's why making them affordable is so damn important. And I do think, Perch and Doc, do they do books? Do they reprint any of these books on cheaper paper to do you've got your hardcover prestige edition. Do they have the paperback edition? Do they do like a cheap, big, cheaper paper reprint?
The big
do they ever do anything like that?
I know that. I mean, some of that the
Marvel has one. It's a black and white edition, right?
Yeah,
they do.
Essential.
Yeah, there's a couple different formats they do, and they're following the manga format of having the Tonkaban versus the Kanzaban or the Azaban. I mean, you have different things. They're doing a little. They're not doing nearly enough.
But years
ago,
ago,
you can do it all day long. But right now, the biggest problem is when they do these things. Guess where they're selling it? Back in the comic shop.
Comic shop.
Yeah,
it's got to be out.
That's not where you sell it.
You got to get outside, like you said about the airport book place, like Target, or where people are shopping at the grocery store, like where the National Enquirer would be sitting. There used to be comic books up there too, and that's really, really, distribution is so key in getting it out there, because with the digital and the internet, it just, the competition for eyes is crazy, and now with AI, like even just screwing around. Doing my research on advertising rates for Marvel, screwing around up there. I see you. There's just so much competition. There's so much competition for your book, and it's cheap. It's cheap and easy. What's Netflix? $16 a month, and everything is on there. Or YouTube.
Xbox How are you gonna Game Pass is like $15.
How are you going to compete with that? The only way you can compete is either a super quality product or you've got a super inexpensive product.
Frank Zanka says, happy Saturday, everyone. Thanks to Perch for having me on yesterday for Fairy Tales of Terror. We talked about facsimiles being priced lower to bring in new readers.
Yeah, thank you, Frank, and thank you for putting up with me. I know I had some last minute travel there, so we squeezed it right there at the end. But another push. He's got a day and a half on his campaign. He's funded, so you're getting a comic book. That's great news. So push it up a little bit higher so you can make a profit, which would be nice. And I think the interview I did with him, he was great, very knowledgeable about the topic. It's up. I put it up this morning, so don't jump away from here. But later go give it a listen and check out what Frank has. He's a real cool guy.
Yeah, that's a really great campaign. He's already over $10,000. Hopefully we're able to maybe reach 15, 20,000 by the end of that one.
This is Fairy Tales of Terror?
Fairy Tales of Terror, absolutely.
That's a great title. Stunt casting. I like it.
Yep. You got Psycho Cinderella in there. You got some Tiger Lily. Some really cool stuff.
Nice.
I think a lot of people will enjoy that one. And congrats, Frank, on all the success. And Freight X7, to clarify, when I say ongoing anthology series, I'm talking about comics similar to manga anthology like Shonen Jump.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And if you're in the chat or you don't know what this is, take a quick look. You can just search Shonen Jump. if you haven't, I think they're on Google as well, but they're definitely on Apple devices. Go download that app. It is a free app, and you can read the 1 week or 2 weeks books for free. And then if you want to go further into the back catalog, they charge you $3 a month to read everything you want, but you get a lot just for free. But check out these things. We always go to price, and then we always go to the content, and whether it's this, too political this way or that way. But at the end of the day, the major problem is just eyeballs on this stuff and distribution. And that's the broken
awareness.
You fix that, you fix everything else.
And it's hard for everybody out there who's struggling. This isn't easy, okay? Like right now, to me, Facebook seems like a big whistling graveyard. Like it's not what it used to be. Facebook used to be a really good place to drive traffic. I'm finding like Instagram and video reels and all the podcasts, but it's tough to stand out. My hat's off to all the crowdfunders out there that are doing it. Like this gentleman that is on his way to cracking over 10,000. That's really good. If you just brought in 10 grand, you brought in more money than the publishers, the indie publishers in the 90s were bringing in.
Well, keep in mind that a lot of these platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they
X.
started off as,
it's not Twitter, it's X.
It's whatever. They started off as one thing, but they've decided that they want to essentially turn themselves into the Apple model of a walled garden. So they don't try to drive traffic off of their site anymore. Even though they started as essentially nothing more than advertising companies, Google's the same way. Mm-hmm. Their goal is to keep you on their site now. So if you have a product that you're trying to market, you can't rely on the big platforms anymore, because their goal is to keep you within their platform.
Yeah.
So they will deboost anything that takes you off site now.
And even if you boost stuff, everything's bots. I've been doing so much research trying to figure out my advertising rates on American Horrors. Everything on social media is a bot. It's a bot. And half the arguments online are all bots. Whatever he's dancing to up there, I want that piped in. We should have the elevator music going. But I agree with you on that. Totally, Doc.
Corporal Orlave. Holy shit, we get it, bro. You like hearing yourself.
I do too.
No, that's not nice. I look, I do my voice. I do my best. I know my voice is annoying sometimes.
Your voice isn't annoying at all, Perch. You've got a really good radio voice. You're very well composed.
He's got a good face for radio too.
Unfortunately,
I do have a great
see your
face
pretty
for radio.
face. Where's your store?
I've had stores in Seattle. I don't have a store at the moment, but I had stores in Seattle for a long time, stores through Colorado.
You were about to open a store and then COVID fucked you, right?
That's right. It did.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
I remember that.
We'll get back to it. I'm at this point, I've funded the store here. You've been to where I live, Wes, that nearby, to the point that I feel like I own it at this point. So
very, very cool. And then Scumbag Boogie, pricing is outrageous. Matt Fraction promises one-shot issues for the new series, and that excites me. $5 versus $30 for a story is a no-brainer. I think that's kind of a good point.
The one and done model, though, typically tends to, everybody says they want it the same way that everybody says they want anthologies until they publish them, and nobody ever buys them.
I love one and done stories. I'm definitely into it. They're doing them right now in Space Ghost. It's fantastic.
I'm going to say anthologies work.
That's my favorite Red Coat issues, is when it's one and done. I much prefer it to when
when they're going back and they do like the Dolly Madison story and all that shit.
The one-shot Red Coat books are great.
Yeah,
who puts
but
those
I do
out?
think a lot of readers right
Ghost
now,
Machine, Image.
talking about what Doc's talking about, I do think a lot of readers are programmed for writing for the trades, so they probably expect the story to go at least 4 issues.
And additionally, their definition of one shot issues, the publishers these days, when they do them, there is zero connective tissue, and that's just as big of a problem as the right for the trade, right from the omnibus.
What do you mean by connective
B
tissue?
plots, C plots.
Little
an
moments,
ongoing
there's
storyline, like in a
like a
narrative flow?
breakups happening, and it's connecting the story, and the Chris Claremont's X-Men one-shot stories mostly, but there's a big 4 or 5 overarching stories all moving through for years at a time
until it eventually becomes the A plot of a story.
Yeah.
So
that's the idea of a serial.
Yes,
Yeah.
I understand.
They don't really
that,
do it that way anymore.
but that's the problem. They're either treating, they either treat comics these days like it's like a Netflix series that's just a 10-hour movie, or they treat them like an episode of The Simpsons where literally nothing matters. If you skip 30 episodes, nothing will have changed.
Yeah.
You got to make the stuff count. Doc, you're absolutely right. And whether it's an anthology, a one-and-done, whatever it is, you got to feel like what you're reading matters, which is the big problem with a lot of the anthologies that Big Two have put out. The story really is irrelevant that's in there. It's 4 pages that doesn't matter. And you can't hook people with that, of course, but we've seen tons of anthologies that do a great job of that have serial storytelling, that get you excited about something new. It just has to matter.
Yeah.
All right, Dylan, we want to hear this story. You said a homeless meth head tried to carjack you in Redmond?
Washington, Redmond?
Yes, this was in 2023. I was with my now ex, like girl I was dating at the time. We were in her car, so she was driving. We were going one way. It's towards like where like the town square is, Perch. I'm assuming you know
near Marymore?
Yeah, it's close to Marymore. Yeah.
Huh.
So we were driving that way. It was late at night. We saw like 6 cop cars streaming past us. Like, oh, I wonder where they're going. And we found out very soon. A dude came and hit the back of our car, hit the side of it, and then flipped over in this truck. He got up like nothing happened. He was just he's shirtless, just wearing pants. Sprinted to the left. My girlfriend pulls over to the right and is screaming, freaking out. She puts the car in park, which automatically unlocks it. The guy comes back, opens the door, slams into her, and gets in the driver's seat. I start punching him in the face, and then cops come in from both sides and tase him and drag him out of the car.
Well, see, the moral of that story is, there were police there, which is how you knew you were in Redmond or Seattle.
And they were going against orders because you're not supposed to chase. This was before they had undone that. This was in 2023. So they were technically not supposed to be chasing this guy.
Redmond, if you're unfamiliar with the area, that's where Microsoft is. You have Google there a little bit. You have that's where the rich people are. And so you still have police, but it's I'm sorry.
You weren't thinking about maybe throwing
exactly where you
on
are
him or something and putting him lights out?
No, I just punched him a couple times. But we found out later that he was like a homeless guy that was couch surfing, and he was like couch surfing and he had an argument with some girl that he was staying with, and they like neighbors called the police because they said they heard him like cocking a gun or something, and they were like yelling at each other. And then he went and stole some Mexican guy's truck in like a Walmart parking lot, and that's what he hit us with.
Walmart parking lot.
Also
so this guy was on his own straight up GTA.
And he was like high on meth, and this guy was also, the funny thing is, this wasn't the first time he had done this. He had like just a couple months earlier, he had ran into a bunch of cop cars and like gone crazy. This guy has a history of this. It was great. It's good.
But
time.
you're okay.
You
like you didn't get hurt.
No, I didn't get hurt. I was fine. Yeah.
The girlfriend at the time was okay.
She was fine. She had a big bruise on her thigh from when he slammed into her when he got in the car. That was it.
Right,
but none of us had
cool.
like any serious issues or anything. But it was a crazy night. And Redmond, like Redmond is much nicer than Seattle. It's like not a bad area. So I was not expecting something like this. This was.
Yeah.
How long ago was this?
2023.
Okay, wow.
You get the Bed Bath & Beyond moves out of there, and this is what happens.
A comic book publisher I know out of Chicago just got attacked at a Walmart last week. He got jumped at a Walmart, and he spun around and punched the guy in the throat and started stomping him in the face, and he's okay. My friend's okay, but it was ugly because there's crazy stuff going on out there, folks. Watch your backs.
Throat punch. That's how you do it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you don't want to mess with
right
this guy. He's a veteran. You don't want to mess with this guy.
Absolutely. So let's get into some comic book recommendations and wrap this bad boy up. Just a fantastic conversation about prices here. Now, Hart, this is your first time on the channel. I do appreciate you coming in here with all your years' experience and obviously lots of knowledge added to the conversation. Are there any comic books, like they don't have to be new, they can be old, that you would like to recommend, or maybe anything coming out on American Horror that you need people to know about?
Well, I'm really excited about licensing out my character Bill the Bull to Max over at Atrocity Comics. He's writing it. It's going to be involving Bill the Bull in Iraq as a contractor, and it's going to be done by all veterans. So the whole book's going to be done by vets, It's going to be uncensored, so they're going to talk like they talked over in Iraq when they're, at war. And in modern comics, it's tricky, it's really tricky because I don't really read as many comics as I used to, but I'm really happy to see, I'm happy to see Heavy Metal magazine back. Out of all the books that are out, I'm most excited to see Heavy Metal magazine back. That's something that I've really enjoyed, and I like the first 2 issues. And I'm proud to say one of my guys is editor-in-chief, Frank Forte, who drew a ton of Bill the Bull stories, who did a ton of stuff for Boneyard Press back in the day. And I worked with a lot. I actually slept on his attic floor on the Straight to Hell tour. So I'm very, very excited for Frank. I'm very excited for the guys at Heavy Metal magazine. That's the thing that I'm most excited about in comics right now is Heavy Metal mag. I would like to say to everybody, I'm working with a guy out of Chicago, Brian Long, who's helping me remaster the Jeffrey Dahmer omnibus book that I had a nightmare doing self-publishing with. And I've been having a nightmare with the Bill the Bull omnibus that you talked about being late on comics. I'm only 4 years late, but I've been really enjoying getting back into comics and doing them again and learning so much. Oh, Rick Veitch's Max Immortal. Oh, I'm so excited about what he's doing with True Man over there, Rick Veitch. So I'm going to say Heavy Metal magazine and Rick Veitch's new work that he's been doing with his new publishing company and his print-on-demand books. So those are the things I'm most excited about. Heavy Metal magazine, the Rick Veitch Max Immortal True Man series. It's really biting. It's some of his best writing, and it's in black and white. And I love the black and white art form. So those are my picks. And then I've got my books. And guys, when you want to watch horror movies, it's free. American Horrors is free on Roku. I have my own comic book show, Comics Labyrinth, with Trike Chemnitz from Trike's Comic Alley, and we interview comic book people, and we really get more like cartoonist kayfabe. So we break out the art and stuff and do, like, I really miss Ed. A salute. They just had Ed's convention for the 2nd year in a row. Jim Rugg was out there. So my hat's off to all you independent people out there kicking butt and making it work. So I'm excited for comic books, guys. I think the crowdfunding aspect and the podcasting aspect, it's really important for what's happening. So there's a lot of good stuff, but hey, I could talk forever.
Appreciate that, dude. Now, Perch, you have been traveling all day long, and I'm going to recommend a book for you. It's called Conan Scourge the Serpent #1. Jim Zub and Ivan Gill absolutely delivers if you're looking for the next Conan event, dude. It was good.
I've got that in the stack. No, Zub always delivers. He's an awesome guy, and I think this run is just shows what happens when you unleash a creator, gives them a long runway so they can actually tell great stories. So it's great stuff. I don't know. I'm looking at the list. As you mentioned, I've been traveling.
It's a good week. I'm putting it out there.
I haven't read anything, but nobody should take away from that anything other than there's been no time. Because I got Hyde Street here on my list. I always love that. I'm still liking Hornsby and Halo. I like, a whole range of different comics that are coming out. And it's absolutely stupid, but I think DC versus Vampires is wrapping up now. It is dumb as hell, but it's fun dumb as hell. And I mean, people need fun dumb as hell. It's a just fun book, and the art's good. I see Sully there smiling, so he's with me. So
you hit 5 countries in 6 days?
I did, yeah. Now, one of those was a layover, but it was a rough time. I do not like traveling over to Europe. It's just it's all.
You had to do that sex tour in Thailand, didn't you?
Yep. Wow,
man, I mean, I wish, but I will take a look. I see Superman by Williamson. I will jump out. I know I was late and I'm leaving early, but Wes, thank you immensely for having me here. Great talking to all of you.
Appreciate it, brother.
Always super fun. Go check out Frank's stuff. Give him that last push.
And hey, Perch, if you need me on your show, I'm available.
All right. I'm on it. Thank you.
All right, Dylan, you recommend any books? I know you got some because this is a phenomenal DC week.
Yeah, it's a good week. Superman #30, really good. Wraps up the current arc. It was great. Green Lantern #27, we got John Stewart issue here. I like this, pretty good. Green Arrow #28, sadly it's getting canceled, but Green Arrow is one of the best books of DC right now. It's really good, and I really like 28. Skinbreaker #1 was pretty good. David Finch is back. The art is beautiful. You can tell he spent all the time on it. Escape #2 was great. We get some more backstory on the main character and get to see what he's doing and why he's at where he's at. And then Hyde Streak #9.
Somebody asked, what's the best book out of Image Comics right now? I think it's Transformers, Dylan. Do you think it's G.I. Joe?
I'd say it's G.I. Joe, yeah.
G.I. Joe.
It's good right now. And do you have any videos on the Real Comic Book Gamer people need to know about that they should go check out?
Yeah, I've got my Iron Fist video that I posted last week. I don't have anything new this week yet. I'm working on some stuff, but yeah, I got my Iron Fist video I posted last week, and go check that out.
Man, for a guy who wears ballet slippers, I love Iron Fist.
Iron Fist is sick.
He's finally coming back. Sully, you recommend anything? I know you went to your comic shop.
I got 4 books this week at my local comic book shop. They cost $4.99 each, and I spent $20 at my funny book bodega. And you know what? You might need bags, you might need boards, you might need boxes. So spend your money at your local comic book shops. We have a symbiotic relationship with them. We keep each other entertained and alive. I got Ultimate Spider-Man 21. This variant covers.
Wait a minute. Why'd you call it Ultimate Ripoff?
Because there's only one panel of Spider-Man in uniform in this entire book again. And this cover has more Spider-Man action than probably the past 3 issues. And it's not a terrible book. It's just a disappointment. And I'm on the hook for 3 more issues of this, and I'm off the sauce. I'm off of this. And I just feel that this book is going nowhere, especially with Dennis Camp having to do Ultimate Endgame and not Jonathan Hickman himself. So, I like this book. I'm not dissing it. I'm just more of like, I call it ultimate disappointment, and it pretty much is. And
is it hey, John, the biggest quitter in Marvel Comics probably just quit even giving a shit about his scripts for that book.
It's a beautifully done book. I always come back to saying it's the Sopranos of superheroes, because it focuses on dinner scenes and B and C characters, and there's not enough whacking. Seriously, there's not enough Spider-Man action.
Bro, those boys whacking in my trailer.
What are you talking about there? What do you mean? What do you want to see more of? What?
We're talking about, people being taken on the bridges and thrown off. All
right, so get to the stuff you actually liked.
This was great. This is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Right to Spring, issue number 3, and I was blessed once again to get the movie poster variant cover. This is based off of Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock Psycho.
Is that the entire title?
Yes. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Right to Spring.
And Right to Spring is a subtitle because it's a sequel to Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
And it's a pretty good book if you like Dexter and it's that kind of serial killer kind of story. We got Green Lantern 27, which is great. The penultimate issue of the Starbreaker Supremacy. Really good stuff by Jeremy Adams, our friend. And my pick of the week is Superman number 30 by Joshua Williamson. Great art by Dan Mora. It's got Superboy Prime. It's got Legions of the Superhero. Legions, plural. And it's got the Dark Side Legion. And this is this is fun. This is, I'm so happy I've been tuned in. See, this is a good example of a serialized monthly comic that I keep coming back for every month. So at least my disappointments are balanced with some actually great stuff. So this is really good. Don't sleep on Superman. And those are my picks of the week. Thank you guys so very much. And thank you for the best live chat every week out there.
And definitely keep some thoughts and prayers going for Jim and Aaron. They both have a few issues going on right now, but do know that we are doing great after going through our couple of typhoons, basically going at the same time. Last but not least, Doc, you got any books that you want to recommend?
Well, I was thinking, maybe I'll, since apparently titling your books an entire fucking paragraph is what comic book industry does now. Maybe I'll go back and maybe I'll create my own book and it'll just be called So I'm Fucking Drinking One Night. And go from there.
Kevin Eastman wants me to do a book about my life called Harty Fisher's 10-ton erection.
Boom.
All right. So, no, I did not read any new comics this week. I haven't even been to the comic shop.
We know that, Doc. What do you actually recommend?
So I am going to recommend. I actually bought this the other day.
Oh, Moon Knight.
I like this design on Moon Knight. This Moon Knight figure, and it was fucking cheap. It was like $9.99 because I got it at clearance because I don't pay full price for fucking Marvel Legends figures. So, but yeah, this one's cool. I like the black and white design for Moon Knight where it looks more in the shadows. Then, since we were talking Iron Fist earlier, I am going to recommend first appearance of Iron Fist back in
Got
Marvel
it.
Premiere, way back in the day. There's actually like 4 or 5 issues with Iron Fist, starting with this one, and it also in the next couple issues. I think 19 introduces Misty Knight, and 21-ish introduces Colleen Wing. So in like 5 issues, you get like 3 keys there. So then one of the only like 3 books that I think is actually worth buying these days, G.I. Joe Real American Hero. This is from a couple of weeks ago, but I just finally had a chance to read it. So good book. Then we will go back in the day. So not the first appearance of Black Widow, but it is the first appearance of her kind of more traditional costume, where she looks like a weird mod era spy, like she belonged on the fucking mod squad. And her more superhero-esque costume. So we'll go with that. ASM 86. Then, since we were talking about B and C and D plots before, this is a book with just your run-of-the-mill A plot of X-Men trying to get away from mutant train of terror after they escape. But this is also connecting back, and like 40 issues later, you're finally going to get really resolution on it in Extinction Agenda, because this is kind of the early introductions to all the shit going on with Genosha. And Wolverine and Rogue had just escaped from some magistrates, and good time. And then finally, we'll go with X-Men number 9, the first interaction between the X-Men and the Avengers. Good, fun comic. Not a lot of these early X-Men comics are actually all that great, but hey, it's first X-Men Avengers crossover, and it explains how Xavier got crippled. So there you go. Those are my recommendations for this week.
Ooh, very, very nice. I hope everyone is having a fantastic weekend. Dylan, I don't know if you noticed this, but the Chiefs did beat the Giants last week. I didn't want to bring it up. But...
You should not be happy about that game. And an utter battle of retards. That was horrific. We were in that game the entire time, and we were playing terrible. You guys are about to get butt fucked by the Ravens.
Well, we'll see what happens there, but we got the W.
No, but that was great. That was best case scenario for the Giants, because now Jackson Dart is starting and Russ is benched. So that was great for us. You guys look awful, so that's great. I'm happy. I am happy with that result, because you guys should have. If you guys were decent, you should have whooped us. See, most teams going into week 4 right now. Giants, we got Jack Start. We're going into week 1 this week. This is week 1 for the Giants. This is a nice reset. We're like Marvel. We're rebooting with a new number 1 this week. That's what we're doing, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah, but
where you guys, the Chiefs have 1 win, and it was against us, and it looked terrible. You guys are not beating the Ravens.
We'll see. All right, fellas, we're going to head out.
I want to compliment Doc on his choices. Doc, those were great choices on your books.
Thank you.
All he does is win.